Better? Hey, should work now, I would hope.
We're live, by the way.
Hello, everyone. Just checking that everything is.
You look like brighter. Do you have a new light in there? It looks brighter in there.
No, I don't.
Huh.
I may just be bigger.
You're thinking. Maybe that's what it is. How's it going, everyone? Hey, Prof. Hey, Wildbow. Hey, Zendrex. Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday, everyone. I stayed home from work today because I was sick, but I'm feeling much better now.
I'm very glad.
And I have a sick baby in the other room who is 100% going to cry and need me to go soothe her at some point. So,
Yes, we'll probably be taking some unscheduled breaks in the middle of the show. Just an FYI. Don't worry, I'll entertain you all. Spyro. Man, I thought about buying that. Is it just for consoles? Because I played the crap out of the original Spyro back in the day. Hey, Bishop. I'm going to try real hard, Prof. I'm going to try real hard. I don't know if you saw the discussion question I put in there.
I just saw. Oh, hold on.
I don't think we've asked that before.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing to think about.
Cool. Let me do a one last run through things to make sure we're good. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
There's
a dog hair in my mouse wheel. That's gross.
I thought you were going to say there's a dog hair in my mouth, and that would have been.
That's just as gross.
Do you care if this is like this?
What's like what? How?
Top of the script, right?
Oh. Huh. I guess I just stopped writing in the middle of a sentence.
Okay.
That's interesting.
I trust your ability to just do it, but thought I'd point it out.
Boom. Done.
Great.
I don't know why I just stopped there. That's really random. Oh, man. I am trimming my beard this weekend. It has gotten just this too much.
Yeah.
Just too much.
Yeah. This has been a very unkept month so far. Everything is just out of hand.
Yeah, right?
That's what happens when I get sick, is everything gets out of hand at the same time.
Fun times.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I think we're ready. Are you ready? I'm ready.
I'm ready.
Is everyone out there ready?
One thing we didn't do. I don't care. Whatever.
What did we not do? Oh, that?
Yeah.
Yeah, just start it off and then we'll... Yeah.
Okay.
Another thing we didn't do is I have not looked at the script at all since we finished it yesterday.
I went over it just before this, so
that would have been smart for me to do, but I didn't do it. It's okay.
That's okay.
I'm pretty sure I remember these chapters.
Yeah.
All right. I am clicking record. It looks like everybody's ready.
Yep.
I'm clicking record.
Let's do it.
All right. It is recording. Let's go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to We've Got Ward, a Doof Media podcast series where we expertly dissect and discuss Ward, Wildbow's return to the world of parahumans. My name is Matt Freeman, and sometimes I just like to get eaten by a ribbon lady so I don't have to exist anymore.
And my name is Scott Daly, and I like bird-shaped things. This is the weekly podcast where Matt and I eagerly dive into Wildbow's world of shockingly reasonable police officers, grossly literal DNA transfers, and alien-based death powers as we analyze and interpret this ongoing web serial. This week, we're covering the next two chapters of Arc 10 Polarize, chapters 10.5 and 10.6. Breakthrough deals with the cops as they struggle to find out what's going on with the Undersiders, and the trail leads them to Fault Line's crew, who are sheltering the wounded and super jerky Tattletale. Tattle promises to dish info on the area villains and gives Rain the secret to absorbing his cluster's power. It's gross. Then Sveta nears her inevitable breakdown after being disrespected by some fellow Case 53s. Matt, what did you think about these two chapters?
These are great. There's some fun stuff in here. We got some Undersiders. We got a big dose of Tattletale. We got some Palanquin, aka Fault Line's crew, mercenary time, and of course, as usual, moved the character arcs forward for a lot of our characters. I think we'll actually be able to touch on multiple members of Breakthrough today and where they are in their kind of development, or where we think they are anyway. And it's exciting. It's going to be an exciting discussion.
Yeah, I completely agree. One thing that I've really enjoyed in this arc so far is this definitely is the Sveta arc, or at least it's part of what is going to be. It might extend beyond this arc. I don't want to assume that, but we're focusing on her a lot, but we're not just focusing on her. And I think that's what's one cool thing the story does is when we zoom in on some characters, it doesn't mean we forget about the rest of the characters. It doesn't mean we leave them behind. It doesn't mean they're not growing and changing as well. It's just we're focusing on one, and I love that these two chapters kind of continue that forward. That yes, a lot of time is spent here on Sveta, but we've also got stuff going on with Rain. We've got stuff going on kind of in the background with Tristan and Byron, and stuff going on in the background with Kenzie, and of course Victoria is at the center of all of this as the protagonist. But I just love that these zoom ins don't mean that the other characters are just static or gone. It makes me happy. We don't just get to talk about Sveta today.
Yeah, in fact, I think you have a lot of very interesting thoughts today about Tattletale, and I think there's a good case to be made that there's a background Tattletale arc, in this story. It's she's not static, right? She's undergoing her own kind of character change over time, over the handful of times we've seen her throughout the story so far.
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely a lot to say about her, and I don't think she's doing too great.
Nope. All right, let's get into some announcements, Scott.
All right, we got quite a few of them today, so let's go through these pretty quick.
So first, voting for the Halloween contest is over, the Halloween costume contest, and we have winners. The winner of the contest is Panacea by Ellen S. So congratulations.
Congratulations, Ellen. That was a great... I mean, all the costumes were wonderful. We're so glad we got, I think, 12 entries, 11 entries, something like that. You guys knocked it out of the park, all of you, every single one of you. But yeah, Ellen's Panacea was just fantastic, and I'm glad that everyone in our Discord and our Patreon agreed with that and voted for that.
And the runner-up is Regent by Honesty Zond,
which was another great one. It was a great Regent.
Yeah, it really was. Those were extremely detailed. Everyone's was great. I was really impressed. I was also kind of like, I don't know. It was interesting that what costumes people chose to dress up as and which ones they didn't. Like there were no skitters. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, that might be a little harder, but
yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah,
not a judgment, just an observation. Really awesome. I think I'm gonna want to keep doing this every year because
I think it sounds like a great idea.
It was awesome.
Yeah. So the winner, the runner-up, and all of the entries will be on display over at our webpage. We'll put a link in the show notes, which is my way of making sure that I put that up before the show comes out. So you can check that out in the show notes. You can see everyone's entries and be amazed by how good they were. And for our two winners, we will be reaching out to you via email, hopefully within the next few days, on how to get you your winnings. So congratulations, guys. I love it. Love it. All right, Matt. Next up, since we're done with one contest, it's high time we started with another.
All right.
We're entering the last part of the year, so it's time for our quarterly fan art contest that we do once a quarter. This one is coming in right at the end of the year and right around the holiday season. So I thought we would have a little bit of fun with this one, and we're calling this one Fan Art Contest number 5. We're calling this one Happy Holidays from Earth Gimmel. So the idea is create an image. Basically, the idea is to create a Christmas card or a holiday card, depending on if you celebrate that holiday. And that be your submission. And you don't have to like actually create a card. Like, it doesn't have to have an inside. It can if you want. If you want to create a full-fledged card with the front and an inside and a back and all that, go for it. But if you just want to do like an image that's on the front of the card, that's fine too. Just something holiday themed from any of the characters, anyone you want, any characters. Just make it holidays themed. That's all. I think this is fun. I hope everyone thinks this is fun, because I came up with this idea and I was like, I love this. I want to see Worm holiday cards. So
yeah, I mean, these are some real creative folks that we got here. So I'm sure they'll have some amazing entries.
Yep. So we are going to put the official rules and everything up for that contest on the website. That will be in the show notes as well. We're going to make these due by, I originally said the 14th. I'm going to go ahead and say we're going to make them due by the 17th, Monday, December 17th at midnight. That gives us a week to have the poll running. And therefore we can announce the winner right before Christmas. On Christmas Eve, we can announce the winners of the contest and share all the holiday cards right around Christmas time. So I think that'll be great. So Monday, December 17th at midnight Central Time. Well, let's say midnight Pacific Time.
Okay.
Midnight Pacific Time on December 17th is when that contest is due. You will be able to find all the details on how to enter and the rules and the winnings and all that stuff over at our website, doofmedia.com, and in the show notes, where there will be a link to that. So get creating, guys. I love these contests so much. I love that we get to do them. Thanks to our generous patrons who donate money to us each month. It allows us to fund and host these contests. It's really great.
Yeah, and it's always just so inspiring to see all the things people create.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so final announcement. I'm just going to go ahead and commit to having the next Weaver Dice episode out by the end of the month, which isn't even a very stringent requirement. It's just I could give all kinds of excuses here about why it's not done yet, but no one wants to hear that. What you want to hear is it's going to be out soon. So I'm telling you, it'll be out by the end of the month.
There you go. We realized
not out yet.
We realized that we gave an update for that on our patron only Q&A, but we never gave a wide, like a everyone listener update. So we figured we might as well go ahead and do that. And we noticed we had a couple people asking every week because it has been a while. We're sorry about that. We're really working hard to get back into a regular schedule with that. It's just, it always takes way longer than we think it's going to. I mean, it takes a long time for Matt to plan and write the adventure. It takes a long time for us to find a date that all four of us can get together to record it. And then it takes the most amount of time ever to go through and edit it minute by minute to make sure that it's never drags. It's always entertaining and you guys enjoy it. So we're really going to try really hard to get under a normal schedule with that. And we apologize, but it is coming. So get excited.
Yes. All right, Scott, let's move on into the community spotlight section where we read what people wrote from last week's thread. And if you'll recall, the discussion was, what are some reasonable limits that could be placed on Kenzie's surveillance? What are some common sense boundaries for reasonable use of a power that allows almost limitless surveillance? And I thought these answers were great. There were some very insightful threads that ran through a lot of these responses.
Yeah.
And so we'll hit those as we move through everyone's answers. But off the top, Sarah Penguin outlines 3 types of boundaries: legal boundaries, child-focused boundaries, and Kenzie-specific boundaries. So the legal boundaries would specify when it is and isn't okay to snoop, when it's necessary to ask permission before snooping. The child-focused limits are those that only need to be in place until Kenzie's older, like they're things that it's just like, well, a kid shouldn't be doing this, but maybe a grown-up cape should. And then the Kenzie specific limits address Kenzie's issues. For example, no tinkering until some like well specified definition of self care has been completed. No recording people she knows personally, and limiting the number of projects that she works on at once.
Yeah, I like that. I like the divide between those three different areas. Because there's I mean there's a lot there's a lot there's a lot here. Like there's a lot of stuff you need to wrangle in order to wrangle a person like Kenzie, let alone Kenzie herself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like how there's kind of there are different schools of thought in these answers. So
Yeah.
yeah, let's get through them.
Yeah, for example, next up is Roundest Frog, who suggests that the litmus test for what Kenzie tech should be allowed should be asking whether the general public would be upset if they found out about it. Um, I love this a lot because I think this kind of almost ties back to the Victoria mantra, right? Like the idea of reaching out. It's like I can't decide. I'm having trouble deciding what's right or what's wrong. Let's go. Let's poll the audience and let's say, how do you people feel if you learned that someone was doing this to you? And if you're really upset about it, maybe we shouldn't let the person do that thing.
Yeah, I think, I mean, it's potentially a very, very useful heuristic. Like if she could internalize it, she'd be in a great spot. But
Right.
that's the hard part. Like there's a point in this chapter where she tells a cop, like, no, don't worry about it. I already got the license plate number. It's like, okay, Kenzie, you just the only thing you said to the cop was the thing that suggests that you've hacked the cop's license plate database or something analogous to that. So like, just
Right.
please, yeah, right, be more conscious of these things. Stelhex advocates that the requirement be either legal permission or immediate probable cause. So, in other words, something like what actual police have to do, you have to either get like an actual legal warrant, or you have to have immediate, violence-related reason to immediately do it. You can't do this like constant passive surveillance of everything.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. I just think that's also unenforceable, unfortunately.
Yeah, yeah, we're gonna get to that. That segues nicely into the next one, actually.
Yeah, so next, Stuck in Reddit Factory says, you can't limit Kenzie. Her surveillance/counter surveillance methodology means her whole jam is avoiding being caught doing things. The powers enable the Cape to more effectively do exactly what they shouldn't, and often in a way that is hard to prevent. So that's a very good point. Her whole thing is that you can't find out what she's doing. So it's almost a futile exercise to try to.
Basically, and other people take this tack, is that like the only way to get limits on her is to have limits she'll agree to.
Right.
If you put the limits to be too restrictive from her point of view, even if they're reasonable from like a legal point of view, then she'll just lie, which we know she does. So
Yeah, and I mean that's something that I think is true across Cape Manity,
mhm.
right? That in order to really affect the most effective way of limiting what a Cape can do is through their own personal decision making, right? Because like even when Capes when infrastructure was there to stop Capes from doing things, they still did bad stuff. So like
Yeah,
there was still very little control over these people are so powerful that there's so little like innate control by society on these people that really the only way to do so is self-imposed control.
and sort of in contrast, sort of in line with what you're saying, you had instances where like the wards were just constantly frustrated by the restrictions placed on them.
Right, right.
And like you can see a lot of people that just wouldn't work for them, like period. They couldn't hack it.
Yeah, yeah,
So Data Snake says that there are three main things that need to be restricted. I like when people create these kind of structures.
yeah,
Number one, Kenzie's workload. Number two, who the team is looking into, and number three, what they're looking for. So the team needs to be more cognizant of Kenzie's workload and not trust her to tell the truth about it. So like they need to pay attention to
yeah,
what they've told her to do, and then like double check that like what she's actually working on, because she'll just lie and say, oh no, I'm doing fine. The team needs to stop putting surveillance on their allies or people they might be working with. And finally, the team needs to be more careful of crossing lines, like perhaps accidentally uncovering a secret identity. So, yeah, I thought that was interesting.
yeah. That last one is something that I kind of thought was gonna happen, and it hasn't yet. Maybe we're saving it, but I kind of figured like that would happen and our team would get in trouble because of that. You know, it just seems like something that could very, very easily happen, um, through no specific fault of Kenzie, but just her general passive surveillance that she's accidentally unmasked someone she didn't mean to, and the fallout from that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like when they were trying to figure out who was going, like they were tracking down the bombers, although they didn't know that at the time.
Right.
Um, and like they were basically trying to identify someone, by their face. So basically,
Yeah.
they were actively trying to figure out someone's secret identity, which is pretty edgy for heroes.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like the first one too. The idea of, not believing her when she tells you, like, there's an audit adage that's trust but verify. So like believe her, but I'm gonna need some supporting documentation for that.
Hmm.
And I think that's really what they need to do. Like, yes, we believe you, but we kind of don't.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the irony of the trust but verify statement, is it's a lie.
right.
'Cause like, if I really trusted, then I wouldn't need to verify. But
Yeah,
um, I think they need to do that in Kenzie's case, not because. I mean, not because she's like outright lying. She's just very distorting and minimizing of the truth.
exactly. Yeah,
All right, next up we have exe JPEG Wave Windows Media File. No, it's not Wave. It's a Windows Media File.
yeah.
Who says no spying on people in their homes, no sexual stuff, and avoid involving Kenzie in situations that might remind her of her past traumas. I think those are some pretty good ground rules, just like in general, like just across the board.
Yeah.
And I like that their final one here is kind of very specific to, it's not just limiting Kenzie for what she can do that could hurt other people. It's limiting Kenzie for what she could do that would be damaging to herself as well.
Yeah, I mean
And
that one's interesting because you can just imagine that she probably sees a lot of pretty fucked up things, just like, when she's spying on Hollow Point, for example. So, yeah, it's I don't know to what degree I don't know to what degree you can select for that stuff, right? Like she's gonna see that kind of stuff. I don't know.
yeah, no, I completely agree.
Ruben 307 suggests along the same lines as Stuck in Reddit Factory. You can't limit her because the alien attached to her brain will not permit the power to simply not be used. So instead, let her do all the spying she wants, but instead place rules on how she's allowed to use the information she gathers. And they make an interesting comparison to the clairvoyant, who sort of can't be stopped from seeing everything. So if you were going to put limits on, for example, the clairvoyant, it would literally have to be on like, well, what are you allowed to do with this information?
Yeah, that's a really good point.
I don't know if I, would would just say like give up, which is kind of what this is suggesting. Like I think there's some middle ground between using her power completely cavalierly and not using it at all. But yeah, it's certainly a good point that like if you put a box around Kenzie, she's going to find a way out of it.
Yeah, that's true. So, I mean, I guess the idea here would be that you create the rules that can be enforced.
Yeah.
You focus on the enforceable instead of the unenforceable.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, then we have Tassar Watt, who says, along very similar lines to Sarah Penguin's ideas, they suggest that there should be Kenzie-specific limits like forbidding surveillance of team members and having to run any major projects by the team leaders before starting on them. Although I can't help but think it's not so easy to tell a shard no, which is very true. Common sense limits would include keeping a record of what surveillance ops breakthrough is running, as well as who authorized it. Then a list of legal restrictions that seem to be the kind of thing that would help ensure that data gathered by Kenzie's tech could be used in court. That's a good point too. Like, assuming that there is some kind of actual legal structure here, surveillance, like there's rules in our society around what surveillance items can be used to as evidence of guilt in court. So if we're using Kenzie's surveillance or any kind of surveillance tinker in a way that is going to help convict or convince people of guilt, then it should follow the same kind of rules and laws. Like I forget who said it earlier, but there should be, you know, rules around when you're allowed to do that, and control over that, and permission you need to get before doing so.
Yeah, I'm reminded of the fact that she was raring to submit falsified video evidence to Ashley's trial, which is just a terrible, terrible thing for someone in her position to do. Because like if you're caught as someone with Kenzie's power, if you're caught doing that, then you're basically like screwed for life in terms of being a cape, because the legal system will now never trust your evidence again. Like anytime your team wants to do something based on a Kenzie recording, they're going to be like, well, how do we know that that really happened and that you just didn't want to go get them, so you falsified it, you know?
Right.
So the fact that she's willing to do that, like, it's not like people can't like fake video nowadays. It's just that they know if they got caught doing it, they would literally go to prison.
Right.
So yeah, real bad line to cross there, Kenzie.
For sure.
Yeah. So next from Beard of Valor, basically again pointing out that Kenzie's power is by default much worse than what the NSA does now, and we're already like raising hell about what the NSA does.
Mm-hmm.
So it might help to give Kenzie specific, like kind of narrow in scope missions, make sure that her spying is organized around those targets rather than any kind of like dragnet approach where she's, you know, just surveilling a whole city like Hollow Point.
Yeah, there's a theme that's emerging from these things, Matt, and that theme is making Kenzie the linchpin of your entire team organization idea is not a good way to limit her surveillance.
Yeah. I think it's safe to say that the team is going in the opposite direction from a lot of these suggestions.
Yeah, I think so. Next up, we have Bam3211, who says that the team should hire someone specifically to check her work. So kind of like a Bonesaw Amy situation where there were people checking up to make sure the person was doing stuff. Yeah, I mean, I think like originally that was supposed to be not Kenzie specific, but Natalie was supposed to be in there making sure that that they were following guidelines, and that didn't work out.
Right. I think I like this idea somewhat, because no one else on the team is really going to do it, and it would kind of make the whole team dynamic weird. But having a third party who the team has kind of empowered to that end could cut the Gordian knot of being like, look, we don't actually trust you, and we want someone to look into your work, but none of us are going to be the one who's doing it. It's going to be this person over here.
Right.
Which it has potential. I would probably want more elaboration on how exactly that was going to look, but I think that's an interesting suggestion.
Sure.
Finally, Muns for College suggests that the solution to Kenzie's problems is have a functioning legal system with privacy protections built into it so that Breakthrough doesn't have to make up its own rules.
Yeah, I mean that's actually a really good point, because it's like, how do we limit Kenzie? It was like, we'll have a infrastructure first, because like it's like, how are they expected to know what is right and what is wrong to do in these situations where there's no kind of authority system in place to bounce off of at all?
Yeah, right. I mean, if Kenzie doesn't even know if she's breaking laws, then how can she? Yeah, just make some reasonable laws. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, especially when like their goal is to serve the common good, right? And it's like we have laws to protect people from each other, but we also have laws to protect people from the government, and like she's not part of the authority system, but she's basically serving as it in this world. But there's no laws, there's absolutely no infrastructure to protect people from this kind of stuff right now. So
yeah. All right, that's our discussion section. Let's move on into the chapters. We begin chapter 10.5, and the Fuzz shows up at Breakthrough's truck stop investigation. Swansong is the one who notices, but Kenzie is the one who seems the most agitated by it. And she says, I've had serious talks with police officers 9 times, and it went bad 7 of those times. Lookout said, her eyes fixed on the cop car.
Yeah, it's probably because she just casually mentions that she's already got the license plate number.
Uh-huh.
Right?
Yeah.
No, but I mean, there's something really tragic about that, isn't there, though? I mean, Kenzie's this girl who suffered from parental neglect and abuse. Police, law enforcement, and these people should have been a place of refuge for Kenzie. Like like they should have been the people she could go to and make her feel safe and get her away from her problems. But that's just not the world that she lives in, and that's just not what happened. I think this is more evidence of the system as a whole failing Kenzie, back before she triggered, and then especially afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the chapter is priming us to be aware that Kenzie is a bit freaked out about this whole situation, and it actually introduces a kind of background tension to what's going on here.
Yeah.
So Victoria then makes the call to keep the data at the risk of getting shot. This is portrayed to her as a dichotomy. She chooses to keep the data. Instead, at Rain's suggestion, they dim the projections.
Yeah, so this is one of those things that almost seems like just a humor beat, right? Like that's just like, it's funny, Data or getting shot. I chose Data.
Uh-huh.
But like when you think about it, this is pretty fucked up. Like we just established that Kenzie is like terrified, right? The cops are here. She's had really bad experiences with cops. She's very nervous about this whole thing. Tensions are already high, and let's choose the thing that increases the tension.
Yeah. Let's keep the weird cape shit all over the place,
right?
While we're trying to talk them down and convince them that everything's fine.
Yeah, and as you noted here, it's Rain that comes up with a compromise. Like Victoria builds this dichotomy that it's one or the other, and those are the only two options we have. And then Rain's like, well, can't we just do this one thing that's like a compromise between those two things? It's like, oh yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
And so I think this is kind of getting us into Victoria's mindset, because we talked about this a little last week about how like borderline obsessive Victoria is when it comes to Tattletale, and I think that's kind of what we're seeing here. Like, what is our team like? If we step back from this, what are they doing here right now? Like, they are investigating Tattletale. Tattletale fled Brockton Bay, or New Brockton, and has come to their area, and they want to know why. This is not like a world-ending, life-threatening, we need to address this right now situation. I'm not saying that it's not something that could potentially be threatening and something they should keep a handle on, but it's not like you have to prioritize this Data over being shot. Like I just think this is another example of Victoria, when it comes to Tattletale, can't help but keep going, can't help but keep pressing, can't help but keep trying to figure out what's going on, because there has to be something going on underneath all this.
Yeah, right. I can imagine some other team member being like, Vicky, why are we doing this right now? Like, right. I understand that this is not unimportant, but why are we doing this and not something else?
Right.
Like,
I mean, they've just stood up their whole big organization, right? Like, they've just created this hero team infrastructure. It's had a couple of successes, and then they dove headfirst into this thing, which yeah, like you said, don't want to make it sound like this is not an important thing, but why is it the most important thing? Why is it more important than anything else? Why is this Data more important than your teammate and her uncomfortableness with the situation?
Yeah. Well, we'll see how things evolve.
Yeah.
So Capricorn and Victoria go to talk to the cops, and we meet two of the officers, the elder Little John and the younger Troy. The younger one recognizes them from TV, and the older one clearly has a bad impression of capes, but Capricorn uses his social skills to convince the guy to give them a chance. Possibly. We're not actually sure if Capricorn succeeds on his role there.
I think he does. And I love this scene, and we have a lot to say about how this scene plays out. But just starting here at the beginning, I love the tension in which the scene plays out from the beginning. We have no idea who these cops are or how this is going to go. We immediately get this establishing beat of Kenzie worried. We immediately get this beat of Victoria choosing the Data over getting shot. Therefore, you're primed that this is going to be an antagonistic conversation, that conflict is going to escalate, that there's going to be a fight here, possibly a verbal one, not a physical one, of course. And then there's imagery spread throughout the conversation that's meant to put us and Victoria on guard. Like they recognize her from the TV show. They recognize her from the prison. There's this really great bit here where Victoria says, we continue to approach until one older officer who had his gun drawn raised it a fraction. Not quite pointing at us, but if we approached another few steps, then it might well be. So we've already talked about the significance of guns in this universe before. That guns are this very different kind of thing. Much less like cape gamey and much more just like death, like just representative of just total destruction.
Yeah, casual death. Yeah,
right. And so this gun almost being raised, like about to being raised, shows like this situation is a beat away from turning really serious and really deadly.
Yeah, I thought that was an interesting moment too, because sometimes it's hard to put yourself in the position of a superhero who can do all these things and is dealing with all these powers. It's not that hard to imagine like coming face to face with a police officer in a situation where they're not too sure about you, and maybe they kind of raise their gun toward you. That automatic and like that kind of shows you like, oh, Victoria's not as frightened as maybe she should be, perhaps. Like, I mean, she can be invulnerable on a moment's notice, but
yeah,
still though.
Still, yeah. I mean, it's like if you're trying to, win minds and convince people of your way of thinking, like maybe you should be a little more cautious here. And like, here's the thing. Everything kind of works out here. Like, and it was very surprising. Like we've established that this could go south very quickly. And then the team's kind of able to get through to them and keep the situation relatively calm, like, and possibly even persuade Littlejohn, change Littlejohn. And I love that. Like, and I want us to really dive into how they do this, because I think what we see in this moment with Littlejohn is a potential avenue out of this parahuman-human conflict. Because here we have this guy. He doesn't hate capes. He doesn't really like them either, though. He's just kind of indifferent to them. He calls them these far-off things that he never really considered, that he never really thought about until the events of the end of the world forced him to. So basically, I think he serves as this pretty good stand-in for like the undecideds in this conflict. Like they're in the middle. They haven't really picked a side yet. And so to appeal to him, they appeal to him as a human being. They appeal to him as a law enforcement officer. They appeal to his sense of powerlessness in a world that overpowers him. They appeal to his fear and discomfort of things that he doesn't understand. And it works.
Yeah. Yeah, it reminds me a lot of the conversation that Victoria had with the cop at the community center way at the beginning of the story, where he was just kind of uncomfortable because he didn't want to talk to Crystal Clear. He didn't want to talk to I don't even know if that team had a name, but he didn't want to talk to Crystal Clear because he looked weird. Like that was it. He's like, I don't like, it makes me uncomfortable. I'd rather talk to you because you look normal. And that's kind of a very understandable disconnect between humanity and parahumanity.
Yeah.
And here we have another law enforcement representative who's just like, cape shit, you know, like they're not like, they don't hate it, like you said, but they just don't want to have to deal with it almost.
Yeah. And while I do think they're using, Tristan's very particular skill of influencing people to its most advantageous here, I don't think that means they're like putting on an affect. Like I don't think they're being inherently dishonest to persuade this person. They're just appealing to him on his own level. They don't belittle him. They don't tell her that he just wouldn't understand cape things, which is something we've heard our characters say before, that he's not capable of understanding. These are things they could have done. And importantly, he starts off this conversation being kind of a dick, right? Like he's dismissive and rude and like, and this the cape stuff, and his partner is even more dickish than he is. They could have been dicks right back. They could have been, and you could argue they would be justified in this, but they don't. And I love that about it. Like there's little beats throughout this conversation where Victoria thinks to herself, it's a little more complicated than that. Like she's kind of making her comebacks, but they're all internal to her. She's not sharing them, which is smart.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just like this could have gone such a different way.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Her and Capricorn are a good face for the team. It's funny, her mom has brought this up before actually,
Yeah.
but between the two of them, they're able to balance out all the other weird elements on their team and just be like, we're the friendly, happy neighborhood hero team, and there's
Right.
nothing off or weird about us at all.
Yep.
So
Nope.
basically, two people who are really good at pretending everything is fine in this scene get to pretend everything is fine.
And it works.
Yeah. So yeah, Victoria brings Little John up to speed on the situation, injecting her own biased color commentary, biased against, of course, Tattletale. Eventually, they seem to soften him up to the point where he asks to be filled in on what happened, admitting that he should know more than he does.
And I think that's really important, because when this conversation started, the way this conversation started was Victoria asked Little John, "Do you want me to give you a tour and catch you up on everything?" And he says no, almost immediately. He says, "No, thanks." Now he wants it. He wants to understand. This is what change looks like. This is a person who came into this conversation with a certain set of beliefs, and after the conversation decided to make a different choice. And that's important when we're talking about this conflict between these two sides. You're probably not going to be able to sit down with a person like Gary and convince him that no, actually, parahumans are just like people, in that there are good ones of us and there are bad ones of us, and we need to find a way to work together to stop the bad ones and work with the good ones. You're probably not going to convince a guy like that. You're probably not going to change a guy like that. But people like Little John, people that are just kind of confused and scared and not sure what to do and don't understand, these are people you can win over. And this is how you do it.
Yeah, I like that. Just kind of spreading the idea person to person.
Yeah.
So Victoria then guides him through the images in order, first showing the Palanquin gang meeting the Undersiders and then being ambushed by the Clusterfucks, which is the name that the Reddit has decided on.
Was that? I know someone in our Discord said that. I can't remember
Yeah,
who. But
I don't know where it came from originally, because now I've seen it in several places. But it's
a
just
good
perfect.
name. It's a good name.
So we have March. She sat in the open window of the car, leaning over the hood with a rifle in her hands. The frozen scene had captured the muzzle flash. Even from a distance, there was something in March's eye. She wore her mask, so it covered half of her face, her left eye peering through the right eye hole of the mask. Something real badass about that image.
Yeah, she just kind of moves it to the side, and clips Tattle's tail.
Yeah, but no, I mean, like, I like the way you phrase that. That she's like, oh, this, I don't need the parahuman thing. I'm going to set that aside for a second. I'm going to set aside the cape game. I'm going to literally move my mask aside, which is a symbol of the game, right? It's a symbol of like the rules, and use this rifle, which is another thing that's borderline against the rules, or
Yep.
But I mean, and I just love that the element of the gun and the element of like skewing the mask are in the same image.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right that it's almost very specifically saying this is an act I am making not as a cape. This is an act I am making as a person.
Yeah.
I've moved my mask out of the side. This is not parahuman combat.
Yeah. So paging forward through the videos, or the images rather, Tattletale is shot in the back of both thighs. And I mean, clearly this is like the objective, right? March was aiming to surgically cripple her, not kill her.
Right, especially as we learn more about March's ability to have really great timing.
Yeah.
She doesn't seem like someone who misses that often, right?
Yeah.
She's basically Colin Farrell in that one Ben Affleck movie. I think it was called like Kitchen Devil or something like that.
I'm sure I'm supposed to get this reference, but
it's Daredevil, Matt. Jesus.
Yeah. See, I thought you were talking about The Accountant, starring the Number Man.
Yeah, that sure.
But
sure.
Okay. Moving on from this nightmare.
You ruined my jokes with your ignorance.
Yeah, I know. I mean, that's normal. So the younger trooper now takes the opportunity to criticize Gregor's appearance harshly, as Gregor is in the midst of saving a bunch of children. The smooth guy.
Yeah.
Sveta then gets really upset in what I'm going to call a very Sveta way, where she doesn't seem obviously angry at first, but then she gets more and more heated until it shows through that she's really pissed off. Almost as if she has years of practice tamping down her emotions so that she doesn't kill everybody.
Yeah. It is a very Sveta way of you're absolutely right, and then it kind of ends when she's just like, this better stop now or I'm gonna get really pissed
Yeah.
off. That's a very Sveta thing to do. Yeah. And like we said at the beginning, we're doing a lot of reinforcing Sveta's suffering here. I think this ends up paying off fantastically in the next chapter, but it's something we've been doing from the first words of the first line of this arc. Things are pushing hard against Sveta now. The closest the closer the group gets to derailing this like she's this conflict, this part of the conflict, Sveta is the closest that the group gets to kind of ruining their entire cooperation with the police, right? Like this almost blows up. This gets very close to blowing up. Like things were good. We've had this great conversation. We've got Little John on our side, and then this asshole younger cop decides to do something and it almost derails this entire thing. And it's surprising to me that that would come from Sveta. Like that you would not think, if you asked me which person on the team was going to blow the interaction with the police, I would not have said Sveta.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that throughout these chapters, Ashley is a goddamn diplomatic mastermind. It's Sveta who's kind of continually in trouble.
Yeah. And so the thing that I really like here, so we have this moment where Sveta basically says, I'm getting angry. And then Victoria kind of swoops in and says, let's end it. And then Little John also just says, Troy. And then says, head on over to the other end near the cars. See if you can't spot anything about the truck the attacker is driving or the people inside. So the important thing about this is I think it's like Victoria and Little John have kind of come to an agreement in that they're cooperating with each other to de-escalate this conflict. I mean, like, I think it would not surprise me if in this situation, like, they were a jerk to the younger cop, to Troy, and all the other cops, like, had his back and were like, no, like, shut up, and the conflict escalated. But, like, he and Victoria have come to an understanding, and so he's, just like she kind of turns Sveta away and gets Sveta out of here and de-escalates on her side, Little John serves to do the same thing on his. And it's like, I think this reinforces the bond that's happened here, the small bond that's happened between these two people, these two sides.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, by the time they walk away from each other, I agree that they've won this guy over.
Yeah.
So we have there's the battle between the two sides. It kind of seems like Shamrock shoots one of the attackers, and then they probably swap out the injured arm with imps. Is that the interpretation?
Yeah, that was my guess. I read it a few times, and that's what I got to. I'm not sure on the details of how the body swapping exactly works. Like, does Imp now feel like she's been shot? Like, she's holding the arm and the arm is shot? Does that pain go to her? I think either way, though, it kind of gets rid of the injured arm and presumably allows them to keep track of Imp. Like,
yeah,
would her power not work on that arm in particular, I guess?
Yeah, my assumption was that she didn't feel the pain because that's how it worked when they swapped out Rain's ears and eyes. Was like true. The person whose eyes they actually are is the person who gets the effect. But maybe they can turn that off. Like, we don't actually know. So
yeah, but yeah, this is a great way of kind of taking Imp out of the equation. And I don't know for how long that is, right? Like we know very little of this power swapping ability, but perhaps that's why Imp's not around throughout either of these chapters.
Right.
Or maybe she is.
Maybe she is. Yeah, right. I meant to go back through the whole thing and kind of pay attention to where and when we see any hints of Imp, but
I did, and I didn't. Nothing jumped out at me.
Okay. All right.
So
the team now heads to go meet Palanquin.
And I really like. This is just like a really minor beat, Matt, but like they're talking to them on the phone. Tristan, I think, is the one talking on the phone and basically explaining how they tracked them down. and Palanquin hears the phrase, "We have very good cameras," and then the next thing we hear is, "Yeah, we're Breakthrough." So it's almost as if like they've gotten a reputation now. Like they hear the phrase "very good cameras" and they're like, "Oh shit, it's these
Yeah.
Breakthrough people." It's like they're getting a camera based reputation on the street, and it's wonderful.
Yeah, I love that. Uh, so I like that. It's just this delightful piece of dialogue where
Hmm.
they say, Kinsey says, "I'm gonna put this special camera up there. It's a great camera. It's my last one." And Rain says, "Is that just the one because it's special or because it's your last one?" And then Kinsey answers, "Both. It's both."
I love it. But it also kind of shows you, that Kenzie has not like she still hasn't restocked, right? She hasn't had time to build up her tech yet. Everything she has is like the last thing she has, um, and it just makes me worried. Like, are they pushing her too hard? Like what happens if this camera breaks and now she's got to stay up for 3 days to build a new camera because they need a new camera because it's very important. It's like
Yeah.
it just all this stuff worries me so much.
Yeah. She's also got to now upkeep all their little hairpin widgets and
Yeah,
keep
yeah,
and their little Cape network thing. And yeah.
yeah.
Um, yep.
As a side note, we're going to probably be talking about this more in the next chapter, but I just wanted to say that I think the text is doing a pretty good and pretty subtle job of reinforcing Rain here as a much more active participant in the events of this group. He's involved in the conversations, he's asking questions, he's involved in the planning. Like, not to say Rain was passive the entire time, certainly not the Byron level of passive, but he just seems to pipe in more, and I think this is really reflective in the next chapter for sure. And I think almost to support this in this moment, we see Rain pull on a new mask. Like he's got a new mask, he's changed, he's a new person, he's different, and I think that's a really great, just reinforcing beat.
Yeah, I agree. Rain's been back in the picture for a little bit now, and we're seeing him kind of step into his new role. I love that.
Yeah.
So as the team meets with Palanquin in kind of an open area, the formal no man's land of the meeting between the teams evaporates when Gregor gives Sveta a big hug.
Yeah, and this is like a fairly standard like false tension fake out that's used a lot. Like the two people standing there staring at each other, and you think they're about to fight, and then one of them breaks and it says "Hey," and it's
Yeah.
like, oh, tension diffused. Um, and that's not to say I didn't like it. I think this works here to emphasize a few things for Sveta. It kind of draws a clear distinction between how some of the members of her Case 53 friends feel about her versus some of the others. Like, right? So we're establishing that she's has a good relationship with some of these people, and not so good relationship with some of the others. But I really love this sentence here, like no this paragraph rather. No man's land effectively shrunk. There weren't 20 feet of distance, but instead it was us standing close enough that we could talk normally, not so close that our two large groups became a huddle. And I mean, this is just kind of geography setting, so we kind of see in our mind's eye where they're standing, but it also serves to show that while the two groups are closer together, while there's hugging, like they're not in a huddle, they're not working together, right? They're not like all huddled around each other planning. They're still two distinct groups working on two distinct things, and there's still a base level of tension here, even though things aren't quite as we're gonna fight immediately as they were when they were standing further apart.
Yeah. But it's always really clear that Faultline is completely professional and has control over her team. So I was never afraid that a fight was just going to spontaneously break out. It was more like, is this going to go anywhere for me in
Yeah,
my
I think
head?
that's fair. I guess I wasn't worried that like one of the members of her team were just gonna jump out and attack, but I was kind of worried that she would order an attack, like
Uh-huh.
that they would just say, "No, you're not supposed to be here. Leave now, or we're gonna fight you."
Uh-huh.
And our team refuses to, and that it escalates, but it doesn't happen.
Yeah. Interestingly, Tristan swaps out Byron and leaves Byron to be searched by the Case 53 Whippersnap. Rain is also being silent for most of this scene.
Which I think these are significant things, right? And that's one of the cool things about reading books and analyzing books is there like sometimes it's tricky and sometimes you really have to dig into some subtext, and sometimes the author stops to very clearly point out something to you that you just know it's important. Like when we have Victoria look back and see that the two of them had changed, that's the book saying, pay attention to this. Something is going on here. It's kind of shaking you and reminding you to pay attention to it. But I don't think we learn what this is, right? Like, I don't think we learn why Tristan would do this.
Yeah, right. And I think it's fun because you're noticing that Victoria is noticing it. So Victoria is primed to be paying attention to these details of like she's kind of often surprised when Tristan and Byron have swapped out and can't really figure out why.
Yeah.
She doesn't really have a good read on where Rain is mentally right now. So she's kind of checking in with them. But also it serves to check us in at the same time.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really interesting.
I really thought at first that it was going to be like, oh, Paris is here or something, and that's why he was doing it, because that had to do with your speculation from last week. But Paris is not here, so yeah. I mean, the honest truth is we just don't know yet, and it's just something interesting that the book wants us to keep in mind.
Yeah,
and that's the same thing with Rain, for that matter. Like, the book stops to let Victoria point out that Rain has been silent, and again, I don't think Rain being silent would have been as big of a deal, back when we first met him, but the Rain that we know now, the Rain that we see now, is silent a lot less, so it is distinct when he doesn't participate in these conversations.
Yeah, my assumption, not really a very well examined assumption, was that someone or something was present at this meeting that they maybe didn't expect to.
Yeah.
To be.
I mean, I think that is true for Tristan. I mean, I think Rain's silence is just, to me, showing that he's like extremely concerned about this is all, when you're dealing with March, this is all circling around him and his cluster again, and it's something that is very anxiety inducing for him. So
yeah, another thing to point out at this point is that there are consistently like background and side conversations happening amongst Breakthrough that Victoria's only like 1/4 paying attention to, where she'll be like, I heard my name said. but
that is true.
So like, for all we know, there's like a running conversation happening between some of these characters in the background that we're just not like paying attention to, which is not something that happens very much in this story. But I mean, she's got her mind on other things right now. So
yeah, I mean, I wonder if that's how that's gonna pay off, or if it's gonna pay off in any kind of interesting way. I mean, I wonder if we're talking about leadership in a way, like this team has no like formal leader, right? Like it's kind of hopped around, and she's kind of taking control at this point. But there's still a lot of like private communications and conversations going on that she's not party to, and I wonder. I don't know. I'm just speculating at this point, but
yeah, something to pay attention to for sure.
Yeah, there's also this beat near the very end of this conversation where Byron actually pipes up. He actually speaks here, and Byron says, we'll follow your rules, help keep you to your time limit. But it points out here Byron's voice was soft. And I think the emphasis on his voice being soft is just reinforcing that he has this like pretty base level of discomfort with all this stuff. Like, he is a much more socially awkward person. He is much less comfortable in this situation. So he feels like he has to participate. He feels like he has to pipe up and contribute, but it's not easy for him. And to me, that's like emphasizing again, Tristan switched out. Like this Tristan is the king at this kind of stuff. So emphasizing that he must be very uncomfortable. Like something must be going on that he really, really doesn't want to deal with to kind of have Byron take over in this case.
Yeah, the way you phrased that has prompted me to generate a spontaneous interpretation / speculation as to what's going on, which is that possibly the other team members talked amongst themselves and were like, Victoria's really got to be in her bonnet about this tattletale thing. Maybe we need to like keep a hand, like rein her in seems like too strong of a word, but like moderate her approach here. So Byron, you actually have a closer relationship with Victoria than Tristan does. Maybe that's true. Maybe it's not. They did kind of go through the whole Master Stranger Protocols thing together and establish a lot of trust there. Byron, you're going to help soften Victoria's approach here. So here Byron's injecting his like soft, like we'll follow your rules. You know, we're gonna team Victoria. We're gonna do what they say. Okay.
I like that. I like that because I think I think that reflects some of Breakthrough's kind of not attacks on Victoria, but like confrontation of Victoria. Like both Byron and Rain kind of confront Victoria about her interpretations of what Tattletale's doing and who Tattletale is. Both of them do this throughout the next chapter, and I think that read that you just said kind of supports that idea. And it might not be something that's as like premeditated as all that. It's just like kind of a spur of the moment realization as they kind of saw Victoria go down this spiral of Tattletale evil, must figure out what she's doing. It's got to be bad, can't not be bad, type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I like it the more I think about it, but we'll move forward. We'll see what happens with that.
Sure.
So Whippersnap, I'm just going to talk about him for a second. He is a biological speedster. He's a K63. His whole body is ultra thin and corded in like really fast muscle. It's a really interesting concept for a K63.
Yeah, I like that we have different kind of speedsters, right? That was something we thought was really cool back in Worm, and we've kind of continued that here. Like, go fast is kind of broad, so of course there's going to be multiple ways where go fast can be generated, and here's a different one.
Yeah, it's very very often a highly broken power in other fiction, which is why Wildbow thinks of very clever ways to make it less broken.
Yeah, Flash, you're broken.
Yeah.
Why? Every time the Flash says the phrase, "I let them get away," I just want to die. No, you didn't. There's no way you would.
I mean, he has to let them get away, otherwise he would catch them because he's the Flash.
True. I think in this scene, though, we see Whippersnap's first interaction with Sveta, and he's not quite so warm to her as Gregor and Shamrock were, right? He calls Sveta a traitor. He says she betrayed their team, which is kind of ironic because I think Sveta would say the same thing about him. This is the start of the really important Sveta behavior, I think, throughout this stuff. This is the start of it. She wants to reconcile. She approaches this guy's being a jerk to her. He calls her a traitor, and she wants to put the bad stuff behind us. She says she wants to reconcile. She wants these people to like her, and that is a beat that's established here and pays off beautifully at the end of the next chapter. That like she feels a common bond with these Case 53 people, and she wants them. She wants to be part of them. She wants to be part of that group, and it hurts her a lot that part of them are rejecting her.
Yeah, I mean, I'm feeling a lot of Glowworm callbacks because her whole deal in Glowworm was that she was getting online harassment from all these guys, and ultimately was just like, at first she wanted to change her handle so that they couldn't keep harassing her, and then eventually she was just like, never mind, just I'm just not going to use the internet anymore. Which, if you draw the metaphorical implications of that, it's quite grim.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we might be getting ahead of ourselves a little bit here, but it's when I read Glowworm, I assumed that the harassment was like that her frustration with the harassment was the type of frustration that I think anyone would have with just when they're being harassed. It's like, it's bothering me. It doesn't make me feel good. It devalues me as a person. But I don't think for her it's just that these people are being mean to her. It's that she feels excluded from the only group she feels like she can belong to.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, she's got Weld, right? But like, that's it.
Right.
So
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
And I guess they see him as a traitor too. So
They do. Yeah.
yeah. So the teams head inside into kind of underground, I don't know if I'd call it a fortress, but a safer area to get out of the open and to discuss March and her power of operation scale planning and timing, and how she's kind of more of a thinker than, for example, Foil.
Yeah, it's pretty cool stuff. Also,
Yep.
she's got that cool explodey sword thingy.
Yeah, she's pretty dangerous. So they get to this hidden location. They check in with the Thinker, who gives them some kind of danger rating, and then the woman who was hanging around that they don't recognize reveals herself to be Matryoshka, holding the Tattletale inside her, along with a few other people.
Yeah, and it's just like totally normal. We just store people inside people.
Yep.
Um, I think I remember in Worm, didn't this woman say that she could eventually just like absorb them, like eat them if she
Yeah.
wanted to?
Right. I mean, it's one of those interesting powers where it's got like two sides to it, where she can store opponents to keep them from fighting, or she can store friends to hide them. But if she keeps people in for too long, then she kind of digests them and incorporates their aspects into herself, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, kind of risky, perhaps.
Right, and I think we're starting to lay the tracks of Tattletale's uh, quiet desperation here, right? Like that she's willing to put herself in this place. The thing I love about the scene is like a bunch of other people are there now too, right? But we don't really ever get like descriptions of any of them. Like we see Tattletale, she's the fourth one down, but are there other people? Like who are those people? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe the role of them is to like keep Tattletale safer or something.
right,
I
right,
feel like we might have enough information to understand Matryoshka's power somewhat well, but that was a long time ago.
yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry.
and as we get into this conversation, I just want to establish from the top how antagonistic this thing is from the first words, because
Yeah.
the first thing Tattletale says is, "Gotta stick your nose in it, huh, Vicky?" And her response is, "Trying to stay on top of things. What did you do?"
But then Byron responds, "That's a pretty aggressive way of looking at it, Vicky."
Yeah,
Um, yeah.
yeah.
So
So we're gonna spend a lot of time on Tattletale's antagonism a bit, in especially in the next chapter. But I love that the tone is set here from the word go. We're defining both of these people's core issues with each other from the start. Tattletale sees Victoria as this person always, always, always sticking her nose into things and places she shouldn't. Victoria sees Tattletale as always a person doing bad things, and that is their main conflict with each other.
yep.
And then we have Byron here. And I pointed this out in my live tweet, and I just love it to death. I love that Byron pattern matches Tattletale here and calls her Vicky. I don't know if I've ever seen Byron call her Vicky before, and I didn't research this, but I'm just going to go ahead and say I don't think he has. And I just love that in this moment he, like, Tattletale said Vicky, so I'm going to say Vicky. It kind of reinforces that he's not really on her side here. Not that he's saying Tattletale is perfect and I should be on Tattletale's side, but I love that little tiny detail so much.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think this reinforces the Matt theory that he's trying to moderate her, but he
Right.
accidentally gets on the other side from her, which is probably not the best way to go about that. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, basically, by default, Victoria takes the lead in the conversation, but the team is immediately like, "Okay, calm down."
Right.
Like
Right.
that's not productive. Which I mean, I think it's interesting that Tattletale still helps them despite Victoria's approach. There's a lot
Yeah.
going on with Tattletale,
Cause
as
that's
well.
cause she's fucking desperate.
She,
Like
she's
we're
yeah,
really gonna get into that.
she's desperate. Um, and she kind, I mean, spoilers. She kind of gives them everything they could have possibly wanted. She just kind of is a bit of a pain in the ass in the process. We'll get through all that though.
Yeah, she
So,
takes the worst deal ever for herself, and we'll get there. Sorry.
yeah. So Tattletale dishes the info on March's group. She says March has been reaching out to individuals from clusters and offering them the secret of how to drain their cluster mates if they help her out.
Yeah, and one of those people she's recruited is Paris.
Uh-huh.
But wait, if she's recruiting Paris, that would mean that Paris is indeed part of a cluster, but not her cluster, which would mean, Matt, were you wrong?
Just gonna go ahead and draw a line through the one map speculation and write a
Um,
little zero
we did
0% right next to it there.
so for those of you that don't know, we record this podcast live now, and we have a group of our patrons always in our YouTube chat while we're recording it, and sometimes Wildbow stops by and listens too. And so we had last week's episode, we had this big moment. We were like, Matt, you did it, you were right. And Wildbow just jumps into chat in the middle of the
Like
conversation and says,
he wasn't.
he wasn't. And of course, like we don't want to bog the show down with interaction to the chat, so we never really respond to anything people are saying in our chat while we're talking. But I went ballistic. I had to mute the microphone because I was laughing so hard.
Yeah, I was.
It was great.
Yeah, so if you want to appreciate our acting abilities, I was saying "God damn it" to myself while pretending that everything was fine. Anyway.
But yeah, we do learn here that March was a member of a cluster of 3. So you were right about that part, Matt.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah, good. Partial credit. Great.
Yeah. Just not who it was. But she's already drained the third person of their power, right? And a pursuit, like, I guess that's the sword blowy uppy part, that power that she drained, I guess.
See, I actually kind of assumed that it happened between the last time we saw her and now.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah, I assumed like, oh, she's way stronger now than because that just seems scarier to me, seems scarier to me. Like she was already powerful, now she's even more powerful. And
yeah, that's true, because I think the text specifically says that seeing Goddess and fighting Goddess and Goddess's defeat, like, gave her the last link in her chain of understanding how this whole thing works. So
yeah, because if I recall, the powers are like timing, and then like angles and spatial relationships,
right,
and then the magic physics thing. And I think that the timing and the spatial relationships were always portrayed as being two different things. So like super aim and super timing seems, I don't know. We don't know enough yet, but I'm pretty sure that was the case.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong. I like that, because it makes her even more threatening, because she was threatening enough the first time we met her, and now she could possibly be even more so. Yeah.
So the chapter ends with Tattletale explaining why March is after her. It's because Tattletale figured out how to do the cluster drain, and she's going to tell the enemies of March's recruits if March doesn't back off of Foil.
Which, Matt, that's just like fucking classic Tattletale. It's like the exact kind of protect my people at all costs thing that is both endearing about her and like terrible and destructive. Like it's just like I have to protect my people. I don't care what happens to everyone else, because releasing this information into the world is inherently destructive on its own.
Yeah.
March doing it is bad. Tattletale doing it to counter March doing it is still bad.
Yeah. I think the fact that Tattletale was on Taylor's team always kind of Taylor overshadowed Tattletale as an oh my god, I'm blanking on the word. What's the word for someone who always does the worst possible thing?
Taylor.
God, I can't believe this.
I don't know which word you're thinking. I'm sorry. I wish I could help you here.
This never happens. Escalator. A person who escalates.
Wait, that's the word you were looking for?
Word. Yeah, but I couldn't find like the descriptive form of it in my brain.
Okay.
Tattletale always goes all in on everything, but
right.
this is not noticed because Taylor also does that. So as you said, Tattletale is creating a situation where it's like, yep, you're either gonna give in or you're gonna have to come after me, right? And she comes after her. So
yeah, it's stupid.
Yeah,
damn it, Tattletale.
It's the all in strategy. Same with the Brockton Bay portal, where it's like, you can't kill me if I do this. Yeah.
and everything is fine.
Yeah, right. All right, we move on into 10.6. And the chapter just moves right along with Tattletale and Victoria snarking at each other.
Yeah, so I love this so much, and I want to talk about it a bit before we dive into the meat of the chapter, because we know Tattletale. We know Tattletale is the type of person that doesn't often break down when she's backed into a corner. Like you said, she just kind of goes all in, and she just gets a little more barbed, a little more snippy. And here she's like literally had her legs cut out from under her. She's hiding inside a person that could digest her if she wanted to. She's not in a great mood. So she is, throughout this entire conversation, a total fucking antagonistic jerk to everyone. To everyone. And that's because that's how stressed Tattletale expresses herself. When she is stressed, like you can imagine the pounding headache she probably has right now. And whenever she gets close to being vulnerable, she lashes out in very Tattletale type ways of just being a jerk.
Yeah.
And what I love about this, what I love about how this whole thing plays out is Wildbow is both kind of relying on our earlier understanding of her as a person. Like the text assumes that you know Tattletale and you know the way she processes things, because there's no all of what's going on with Tattletale is all subtext, right? We don't come right out and say it because she would never come right out and say it. So you're relying on what you know about Tattletale from the past, but you have this moment here, this paragraph that I think Wildbow is using to kind of key us into the fact that we should be paying attention to her behavior as not just antagonistic in the normal kind of way, but in a change of behavior in how Tattletale normally behaves, because the whole conversation starts and then she says sanity is overrated, and Victoria responds with, I knew she prioritized sanity, or she prioritized stability. She'd gone into laborious depths about how she was working to those ends when we first met her in New Brockton, but now, because she was hurt or because she was petty, she shrugged it off and pretended it didn't matter, tongue-in-cheek, joking, but still so tone-deaf. So I think Victoria is downplaying the level of stress, panic, and fear that Tattletale's probably under here, just because I don't think she fully understands her. But what this paragraph is doing, in my mind, is to us signifying Tattletale is contradicting herself. She's behaving differently. She's not acting right. Pay attention, reader. Pay attention to what's going on with this girl, because she's not just being normal, everyday Tattletale.
Right. There was, I was thinking while you were talking about this and earlier too, about the fact that like sometimes she throws in barbs to provoke a reaction, and then she uses her power to read things into the reaction.
Right.
So there's like a legitimate reason why she behaves this way sometimes, but also it's just like a straight up flaw in her character, like
Right.
as a human being, that she kind of just is this way, and especially when she's tense. I mean, I'm reminded of like one of those particular meetings with Accord where she's like borderline starts a fight with Accord because she's really stressed,
Yeah.
and it was not part of a master plan. It was just not handling her stress well, and I think that's what's happening here.
Yeah. And I also like to support the Matt theory that we're calling it now, I guess. The heated exchange between these two women kind of dies. Like, it just like Tattletale says something and Victoria just kind of lets it hang, and it looks like the conversation is just going to die and nothing's going to get accomplished until Rain, of all people, steps in and brings it back on track. He kind of says, okay, so what does this mean? What are we going to do? While Victoria's interest in this whole thing is very Tattletale focused, is very what's she doing, what's she up to. I'm worried about her. Rain's stake in this whole thing is super personal. Like this is his cluster. It has to do with him again. And he wants to make sure that they succeed or that they accomplish something in here, and it's not just gonna be bickering between these two women.
Yeah, right. He almost kind of takes over the conversation briefly because he's like, look, I actually need this answer.
I need to know this stuff.
Yeah. So Tattletale then warns them that March is not to be underestimated and compares March to some of the legendary pains in the ass that have been on her team in the past.
Yeah, and she's being perfectly fair to Taylor here, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So there's this moment where she's talking about how much of a pain in the ass March is, and Victoria thinks to herself, gee, I wonder what it would be like to talk to something like that, Tattletale. I thought there might have been something in the look I gave, because she rolled her eyes slightly. I love this because it first of all, we reinforce again that Victoria can't not see Tattletale as this jerk who does jerk things, but also because I think someone pointed this out to me on Twitter, but she probably used her power here. And it's it's just she saw a slight facial change in Victoria, and her power filled in the blank on that. And that's just hilarious to me.
Yeah, I agree. She's not a mind reader, but sometimes it gets pretty darn close.
Yeah.
So then she recommends that Rain join March's side rather than getting on her bad side.
Yeah, the old you can't beat 'em, join 'em strategy, which has never ever gone wrong in
No,
any kind of way.
no, especially
Yeah.
not in when Tattletale's been around.
Right.
See, and like so do you think this is do you think this is a legit suggestion, or do you think this is like a judo where she's actually just trying to get Rain to say no to this and then move on to the next thing?
Um, I think it probably could be. I mean, like it's one of two things. It's demonstrative of Tattletale's extreme like illogical behavior,
Uh-huh.
and because the text kind of points it out, like both Kenzie and Rain like immediately are like that doesn't make any sense. Like that's
Uh-huh.
that would not solve any problem. That doesn't make any sense at all. So it could just be reinforcing that, or yeah, it could be very much it's her just trying to make a play. It's kind of her reverse psychologying Rain, or just like a fish for information, right? Like
Yeah.
you throw the line of joining March out there, and then you use your power to kind of extrapolate. Is he
Yeah.
the type of person that's going to do that or wants to do that? And maybe she's testing him.
I mean I I like both sides of this coin a lot, so I don't know which one I prefer, but it is interesting because we know she has reservations about Rain like as a person.
Right.
So offering like, hey, you should join the crazy lady, and then having him say no actually tells her a little bit about his character.
Yeah.
That might make her feel a little bit better because she does end up telling him.
Yeah.
I like this bit where Victoria once again interjects herself and says, "Is this your power talking, or is it just you?" Both. It's always both. And anyone who tells you it's one or the other is lying to your face. Powers always tie in. One reason I like this is that it's another beat of someone saying both. It's both, more or less.
Mm-hmm.
Kinsey just said both. It's both. So I mean, it's not the same exact words, but I think it's an interesting kind of repetition of the word and sentence structure that
Yeah.
I
Well, and I mean, I think this is, instructive to how we approach behavior, right? Of these characters. Like, there's so much conversation that goes on in this community about, is this shard fuckery? Is this the shard fucking with them? Is this the person? And this is kind of the book saying, yes, like it's always both of these things, and
Yeah.
and that it ties back to something you said not too long ago about Tattletale's power, about how she throws out antagonistic barbs because she wants to get a reaction and extrapolate from the reaction, but also it's just because that's the person she is. So that part of her personality is both. It's both shard stuff and it's just who she is, and that's just how this works for everyone.
Yeah, right. Her shard maybe encourages her to do it more, but her shard wouldn't encourage her to do it more if it wasn't natural to her. So
Right.
yeah.
Right.
So I love Tattletale, but shit like this is why she finds making friends so difficult. And she's talking about what March is doing or wants to do and says, think of the most sketchy of the KISS applications of that power. I'm sure Victoria can come up with something if your imagination fails you. I mean, Victoria literally thinks no wonder she was alone at a time like that. At a time she was this hurt, there were no friends at her side to make sure she was okay or to get her medication. So it's like, yeah, the text is like showing her to say a really unnecessarily overly shit, like crossing the line.
Oh yeah.
Like they've been snarking at each other, but nothing. They're not drawing blood, right? This is something that could potentially push Victoria to a point of either storming away or lashing out, and Tattletale should know that actually.
Yeah. And so I mean the person that thinks Tattletale is this genius wonders, was she doing this on purpose? But I don't think so. I think this is just her reacting and from a very stressed out place. And yeah, it's totally unnecessary. Like, and the thing about Tattletale of all people knows that line. Like, she crosses the line, but she knows exactly where the line is. So when she crosses it, she did it on purpose.
Yeah.
And it's just, yeah, it's awful. It's awful. And I really go back to this idea that I think she's just terrified. She's just stressed to her limit. She's like, I mean, we haven't gotten there yet, but this whole conversation ends with her saying, "I just want to go not exist for a while."
Yeah.
I mean, that's the level at which she's at right here, and she displays that in very distinct ways that don't come off that way. Instead, they come off at pissing off Victoria, which
Yeah.
she's really, really good at.
Right. And I have a hard time seeing it as like part of an elaborate chess game.
Yeah.
It might sort of be, but also it's unnecessary.
Right. And I love this Victoria's kind of reaction to this is things were just a little bit less turnaround and she could be here than they had been in the recent weeks, but nothing was fixed. And I love that sentiment a lot because it's like this idea that, okay, Amy's gone, like I just needed space from her and I'll be okay. And it's like, no, you won't. Like it'll maybe be slightly better, but it is not recovery. It is just another coping mechanism. And I just like that we've reinforced that.
Yeah, I agree.
So the comment about friends jumped out to me because obviously that's not true. Tattletale has a good amount of friends. She has her whole team, and they actually like each other very much. They're family. But they're not here.
Yeah.
Right? Like, none of them are here. And that led me down to, like, well, where are they?
Yeah.
Where did they go? Where's Imp? Is Imp actually here? No, she's probably not actually here. But where is Rachel? Where are Parian and Foyle? Did our group, like, specifically separate and go into individual hiding to make it harder to track them all down? We don't get to see, but like she is alone here, but that seems like a strategic move less than they just don't want to be around her, as Victoria assumes.
Yeah, no, I agree. Because that was my thought as well. Like, well, I mean, if Imp were here, she would be probably mocking her, but also taking care of her.
Yeah.
So yeah, we do. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to assume, but yeah, it seems likely that maybe it was just a choice of like, make it a little bit harder for March by splitting up, perhaps something like that.
The one thing we didn't talk about, we said that yes, it very much seemed like March targeted her to shoot her legs and take her out, but we didn't talk about like why, right? We didn't really get into that at all, and I mean. Like shooting Tattletale in the legs doesn't stop her power from functioning. It just pisses her off.
Yeah,
it just annoys her.
I mean, after the beginning of Worm, she basically spent like the whole story like in bunkers because there was no real need for her to ever be in combat other than the other Undersiders were like, no bullshit, you're going to go into combat with us or you're not going to get paid.
Right.
So they've limited her in a specific way. They've put her. What they've really done is mainly put her out of commission. Like put her in so much pain that they've kind of dulled her abilities. I think that was the main objective here was like sort of take her out of the equation or severely limit her influence, and then March is gonna get another angle on them, as it were.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep. All right. So Tattletale tries to convince them that it's in their own interest to help her keep her villainous plans in motion, because otherwise there will be chaos. She even gives a little wink to Ashley's experience in the Boston Games. Ultimately, she offers to help them out with information on criminal targets if they help her get out from under March. Of course, the team immediately points out that Tattletale will be able to aim them at her rivals, and this works out in her favor slightly.
Yeah. So how do we parse this out? We have Tattletale being like an unnecessarily antagonistic jerk, but she's kind of correct here. Her fleeing New Brockton will create a power vacuum, one that someone's going to fill. You know, Victoria, for her part, is being overly untrusting, but kind of right as well. If they let Tattletale dictate their targets, they're just operating under her innate bias. I really like the comparison that she makes to policing of black neighborhoods supporting a anti-black bias. And I think that's what I kind of like about these two and this chapter as a whole. Both of these women are being jerks to each other, but while they're doing it, they actually like have intelligent conversation that makes good points. Like I think they both are persuasive while they're like punching each other.
Yeah, I mean, what's funny is that they're both trying to be the heads of like an information-centric organization that keeps people safe.
Yeah,
they just have very different approaches, and they would find a lot to agree about if they could have a civil conversation. So Tattletale then says that she'll give Breakthrough all her data on the local villain scene to use however they like, without any restriction, as long, but she just gives a strong recommendation, not even a restriction, just a recommendation that they go after Love Lost first. Her reasoning is that March is probably going to tell Cradle how to do the power drain. And Cradle is probably going to go after Love Lost because she won't be expecting it. And then Cradle will be overpowered and come after Rain.
Yeah, and again, that's a pretty sound argument. Like that probably will happen that way. I think it's hard to not read manipulation into that though. Like they're specifically playing into Rain's fears. Like this is specifically like you have to assume that the Tattletale is thinking about the added bonus of a cluster fighting a cluster that'll attract March's attention and maybe get her off the Undersider's back for a little bit, right? I mean, you kind of have to think about that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But this is the part where you start to realize that like Tattletale is putting up stipulations for these things, but like not actually abiding by them, right? Because she's like, I will give you all the data on one condition, and that's on the condition that you go after, you go after Love Loss, and they never say like, yeah, definitely, we're gonna do that.
Yeah, right. I mean, her wording is actually like it's strong recommendation, not even a stipulation. So as you say, she's basically just like conceding without actually getting any real commitment from them, other than, well, yeah, eventually she gets one commitment, right, which is don't disappear any of us. Even this is not really enforceable. I think we'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah.
Before we get there, though, so she's Tattletale has now launched a barb at Victoria about the Amy comment. She's kind of referenced Ashley's history with the Boston Games, which is a bit of a sore topic for her, but something that she can probably handle. But as we've said, this is a very Sveta heavy chapter. We've dealt with more Case 53s than usual. We've kind of opened up with her trauma. We've met some Case 53s who don't like Sveta specifically. And Tattletale has a very interesting thing, which she may not have even been aware of, but probably is, which is that she calls Sveta, she says, I believe the order is Sveta, Tress, Garat. And then she talks about Cauldron immediately after this, and how people like Sveta specifically were used in the process of developing Cauldron vials, which other people then bought, which is an element of the whole Cauldron thing, which has just got to rub salt in the wound, right? Like, yeah, not only are you a monster, but you're a monster so that other people could buy this boutique luxury of having an awesome power.
Yeah. It is an argument for why she wants, like, her whole point is she's saying, to give you the information on Rain, I need something from you. And why money? It's because money is important. Look at Cauldron. So, I mean, it's a terrible example because, like, don't look at Cauldron for any, like, you probably shouldn't look at Cauldron for any, like, this is why we're doing this and this is why I'm doing it for you. But yeah, this is a targeted attack on Sveta. That's absolutely what it is. And I think the writing, if you zoom in on it, really supports that. Like, look at the sentence where she lists her names. Like, Sveta, Tress, Garat, in that order. If the order was reversed, then you could at least say that she just accidentally called her by that one name, and then as she was going through her names, went from like the more monstrous side to the more personal human side of her.
Yeah.
But no, she does the exact opposite of that. She starts with her name, then with her new cape name, and then goes back to her old name. She's basically going back, like, this is who you are. I am declaring, like, that is still who you are. I'm going to name you that, and I'm going to intentionally move to that name. It's so awful.
Yeah, it's regressing her and denying her growth, and it's got to feel awful for her.
Especially when you follow that up with how she describes the test being done. She says they created things like Sveta, Weld, Gregor, and Whippersnap. Things. Not people. Not capes. Things. The text actually goes so far as to point out that, like, Gregor isn't around to hear this. Like, Gregor and Shamrock have walked out of the room at this point. I don't know about Whippersnap. I tried to figure out, like, get the geography of whether he's around or not. But Sveta certainly is, right? The question here is this just a barbed, stressed, panicking Tattletale that's just reaching out and smacking every single person in the room with stuff that she is getting from her power, who also probably has, like, a monster headache as on top of the 2 bullet wounds sitting in her legs right now? Or Is she poking and prodding with those barbs as she does to ferret out some more information? Is she trying to push them in certain directions by specifically playing against their most open wounds? And the answer is probably both.
Yeah.
It's both. It's
Yeah.
both.
I mean, we've learned that it's both, right? That's the whole
Right.
theme of the chapter is it's both, or the whole theme of the arc, perhaps. Yeah, and I'll just add on that like she also manages to rub salt in Rain's wounds in this conversation by being like you killed kids,
Right.
which I could believe that she's testing there because she is trying to assess whether she can give him this secret, and the way he reacts does tell her information.
Right.
It's like the only person she doesn't really get a dig on is Capricorn, and even with them, she kind of points out the fact that they're twins, which isn't painful. It's just a fact. But
yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's interesting how she kind of offends everyone specifically in their own most sensitive way.
Yep.
So.
And I mean, the most charitable reaction to that is just feeling out how they're doing, right? Like, let me prod their issue and see what happens, and that gives me a gauge on how these guys are doing with their issues. Like, are these people that I want around me? Are these people that I want working with me and helping me?
Right.
Or are they on the verge of a breakdown, not a breakthrough?
Right. Is it gonna blow back on me that I ask these people for help in the first place? Yeah.
Right.
Interesting. So Tattletale decides she'll tell Precipice the secret to draining a cluster as long as the Undersiders are exempt from being disappeared. And I think this is like a really risky offer to accept from both ends, actually.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about this last week, right? Like, when you start creating a list of people to be disappeared, and then you start cutting side deals with different groups about who gets to be not on that list, that's when your whole system gets corrupt and it can come crashing around you.
Yeah, I think corrupt is a key word here because the breakthrough is sort of, they haven't really done anything yet that I could like point at and say that this is a corrupt action, but the fact that they're liaising with Cauldron, who they know to be, well, with Beaker, with the mayor, I guess, who they know to be basically corrupt in a specific way, like not in the sense that she's like accepting payments for things, but she's using her power for like illegitimate means, or
right,
toward illegitimate ends is perhaps a better way of saying it. And
we're rapidly approaching that line for sure.
Yeah. So very much skirting the limits of corruption, and now you've just made a deal with a villain team that you didn't ask anyone. Like, you didn't ask for Natalie's advice on this deal. You're just like, okay, yeah, you're exempt from our new shadow legal system.
Yeah.
This is you're ramping up questionable terms very rapidly.
Yeah. Okay, but I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but did she make that deal? Like, did she really make that deal? And I think we'll get to that.
Yeah. That's the other side of the coin that I want to talk about. But yeah, we'll get there in just a second.
Yeah.
So we get this wonderfully conveyed bit of explication of what the deal is with all of the breakthrough stuff that's going on. And Tattletale says, frankly, the idea of having teenagers being the ones to arrest, judge, and condemn should scare anyone. And yes, let me interrupt you before you get started or figure out if you'll say something. I know you're not making all those decisions. I know you have lawyers and you're talking to the city. I know who some of those lawyers are and the kind of people we have running the city right now. But that last line was punctuated by a serious look Sveta's way. I saw Sveta nod slightly. So right there, she's like lining up everything we just kind of alluded to. We've got Cauldron, Citrine, corruption. Cool, great.
Yeah, I do appreciate that the text indicates that the disappearing is not just being done completely unilaterally, like that they have a system behind it, presumably. Though I'm with Tattletale, like Cauldron, the people running the city being the ones that you're going to for approval for that kind of stuff is like really cold comfort.
Yeah.
like it's like they're yeah, don't worry, I got Cauldron's permission to disappear people first. So that makes it okay.
Yeah.
And once again, Tattletale knows exactly where to press, right? Like where to squeeze. She goes hard on Sveta again here. That she has to look at Sveta as she says this, because it's like, you know these people. You know the people you're that are in charge of the city that you're going to for permission to do these things.
Yeah. I mean, if anything, that does seem like a calculated move, because she's basically
Yeah.
saying like, all right, maybe we do something, and Victoria wants to put us away. And now I've put this little seed, I've planted this little seed with Sveta, where Sveta is going to be inclined to say, no, like, we're not going to make this deal with Cauldron, whatever.
Right.
It's
Right.
it's a little crack she's created in Breakthrough.
Yep.
Yep.
So before we move on, let's talk about this deal though,
Okay.
because both sides accept this deal, right? Like they because the information exchange is given, both sides accept this deal. So Tattletale tells them that she'll give them the information she needs, but she needs a specific price, and that's when she quotes Cauldron's method of getting people to understand the worth of the power they're granting by getting them to sufficiently suffer for it, either monetarily or otherwise. She says that her price for this data, for this information, the price is exclusion from the disappearing list. That's what she wants. That's the thing she wants to ensure that both help her out and ensure that Breakthrough knows the cost of the data that she's giving them. Here's the deal that Victoria actually gives her, though. She says, okay, but I can't guarantee that another team won't push for it. You meet us halfway. Stay out of the kind of trouble that makes people want to disappear you. So the deal that Tattletale takes, the price that she wanted to be so high that this information exchange was sufficient, the importance of it was sufficiently communicated, is basically, I can't guarantee anything, just don't do bad things and you won't be disappeared.
Right.
Which is nothing.
Yeah.
It's nothing.
Yeah. She's a villain. She's the head of a villain organization.
Right.
Yeah. So you wouldn't even blame Tattletale for maybe telling some fibs in the upcoming. If that were because clearly she understands that this is indeed a pretty piss poor agreement for her to accept.
But I think it's also a window into Tattletale's desperation, right?
Yeah.
Like she'll even take just slight temporary assurance that Victoria is off her back, even if it's just in the short term. She'll take that. She wants Rain after love loss, so she's willing to give up the information that she has to make sure that happens. This isn't a good deal for her at all. And she takes it. And then she kind of makes it seem like it's a good deal. Like, it's such a Tattletale thing to, like, take the shitty deal, but somehow make it seem like it, like, you were doing it because everything was sufficient. Like, it's just so clever. I love it so much. I love that, like, if you break down actually what was exchanged in here, it's just nothing.
Yeah.
It's like, I won't disappear you unless you do something that makes you worthy of disappearing, which is what I was already gonna do anyway.
Right. Yep. Well, she considers that to be sufficient, so she explains the trick, and the trick is very worm.
It's so worm. It's so worm.
So step 1 is to confuse the signal that connects the brain to the shard by staying in close proximity for days or weeks. And then step 2 is get lots of that person's DNA inside your body. And Kinsey is able to immediately think of the most vulgar possible interpretation of this, which fact scandalizes Lisa. Put a pin in that.
Yeah, we'll come back to that.
Lisa suggests blood transfusions or skin grafts or cannibalism or whatever works. Kind of puts Bonesaw's creations in a whole new light, doesn't it?
Yeah, like in any other story, I feel like this power drain method is just like, it's a machine, and then you turn the machine on, and it's like both people are on a table, and it's like, my power. No. Not in this story.
No, it's going to involve blood and cutting.
References to 16th century serial killers that bathed in the blood of virgins and all that kind of great stuff. It's so worm.
Yep, love it. That's it. She tells him, then Tattletale seeks out Matryoshka so she cannot exist, and the team goes outside. And then once they're outside, Rain kind of stands up for Tattletale.
Yeah, he does. Can we just? I think we need to read this whole thing because it's pretty important. So we start with Victoria. Deal with the devil, I said. As the resident experts on devils, I don't think she's a devil, Rand said. You're the resident expert on a lot of things, Tristan said. Yeah, I fucking earned it, Rand said, without any hostility in his voice, which I just read that with hostility. My bad. And before you get annoyed with me for going easy on her, Victoria, I'm not an. He didn't stop talking, despite my interruption. I'm also the resident expert on shitty human beings, and I don't think she's a great person, but she's trying in her own way. You're an expert on that too, Swansong asked. Aren't we all? Look at him go, Matt. Look at him go. And keep going. He doesn't stop when he's interrupted. Victoria tries to jump in and he just keeps going. This is that assertive new mass Rain that we were talking about a little bit earlier. He asks questions and he defends people he thinks needs defending. There's a reading on this that like he's just been totally tattletaled at this point. Like she just totally influenced him. Like I don't like that as much. Maybe it's just because I don't want that to be true.
No, I just see it as he is probably the most second chance oriented person on the team. I don't know, maybe not. The point is he's basically identifying like, hey, Victoria, this is the team of second chances, and this is the team that has to believe that people can come back from bad things that they've done,
right.
or kind of reinvent themselves. And you're not giving her a chance, and it's true. She isn't. And Rain has ample data to know that this is accurate.
Yeah. This falls under the Matt theory.
Falls under the Matt theory. You know what? One theory knocked down, but another one
it's coming up
to replace it. So yeah, Victoria, she can't let Tattletale get away with anything though, because she says she doubts the detail of Tattletale's advice. She thinks that maybe, the idea that the power shifts from the weakened party to the stronger one is actually a lie, because we know in trigger events that powers seek out weak people. And I basically don't think I agree with Victoria, because powers seek out people who will use them. And if somebody's unconscious and has all their blood drained and the other person is raring to go kill some people, then the powers are gonna go to the second person.
Yeah. I think you're probably right. I find this whole thing interesting because Tattletale could be lying here. She could be, leaving out important information, or she could just be wrong. And we know that she has been wrong before. We know how her wrongness can happen, that she gets one kernel of bad information and extrapolates off that bad information, and then everything her power is telling her is wrong. We don't know if this one is or not. What we do know for sure is that Victoria is just not going to trust her implicitly no matter what she said. Like, it doesn't matter. Anything she said, she's not going to trust every bit of it, even if she trusts a little bit of it. And maybe this is going to be important. Like, maybe she's going to serve, like, I feel like Tattletale has earned so many people's trust, right? Like, so many, not, trust is a bad word. People know her information is usually right. So when she tells them something, they believe her. But Victoria is like one of the only people in this world that do not. Yeah. Like, she's almost serves as like Brian's role on the Undersiders, kind of, to check her a little bit. She could serve as that. Like, if Tattletale is wrong here, she's the only one that's not going to believe that. So it could be that. It could just be that she's being completely unfair to her, and that she's just not going to believe her no matter what she says, and this whole refusal to accept it is just more data around the fact that Victoria's view of Tattletale is never going to be fair. But I like it either way, like, I just like they get these two characters swirling around each other. They don't like each other, they don't trust each other, but they need each other right now, and they're sharing information, and we don't know whether to believe it or not. We don't know if the believing it or not is important or not. It's just, I just love the conflict. I love how complex this is.
Yeah, me too. It's a wonderful little situation. And the thing is, it's been set up gradually over the course of the story. So it's not like it's just being introduced here, right? It's just we're kind of bringing things up to a faster pace here.
Yeah, and then we have this little moment here after Victoria gives her whole speech. Um, she asks Victoria how sure she is about this whole thing, and she says she's about 50-50 on whether Tattletale's right or lying or truthful here. And Sveta's response is, "That's not helpful." Sveta chided me. "That's the opposite of helpful." And I think this slots into the Matt theory pretty nicely, because they're like kind of checking her on her behavior of Victoria's behavior towards Tattletale. But also, I think we're showing that Sveta's not doing too good. Like, she's not one to chide Victoria very often. So I think she's in a bad place, and she's upset about things, and that's starting to kind of leak out a little bit.
Yeah, right. I mean, I think that only gets worse, right?
Yep.
As there's not much left in the chapter, but it's basically everything that's left in the chapter could be labeled making things worse for Sveta.
Yep. Yep.
Almost everything, not everything. Uh, for example, Kinsey and Chicken Little are coming upstairs. That they kind of were off together, and they're talking excitedly about how awesome Shamrock is. Chicken Little refers to Rachel as Aunt Rachel, and yeah, I think we can officially revisit his name being Chicken Little now at this point, because it's infantilizing,
Yep.
which is exactly what all the Undersiders do to him. Perhaps correctly. That's an interesting question. Are they overly infantilizing Aiden, or is Breakthrough putting too much responsibility on Kinsey, or both?
Yeah, I don't know, but it is very clear to me now that the story is trying to highlight these things,
Yeah,
right? Because the first time we had these two groups come together, one of the things they talked about was the youngest members of the group and what is the proper way, to kind of not raise them, but what is the proper limits to put on them. Now we have the two groups meeting again, and we're doing the same thing again. If we go back to the thing we put a pin in earlier, with Tattletale being shocked that Kenzie would think about sex things and say, "You're still 3 to 4 years off of that."
yeah,
Um, these two groups have very different approaches to the youngest members of their team, and the text has consistently highlighted those differences every time they've been put into contact with each other.
yeah. Right. And thanks for reminding me about that pin. I always hate it when people put pins in things and then never remove them. So yeah, I'm gonna remove that pen. But yeah, I mean, absolutely. Tattletale specifically is continually kind of like amazed and scandalized at the way Kinsey is treated by her team,
Right.
and has an interesting kind of protective streak that it isn't entirely new, because she was like, she did have all the kids that she was taking care of as part of like the greater Undersiders Brockton Bay, organization.
Yeah.
But um, it's I do wonder where this is going, specifically with Tattletale, as what is her. I mean, we know that she's protective of people. We know that she kind of attaches to people and decides they're she's gonna keep them safe. And maybe there's an aspect of that here.
Yeah. Well, I think there is, and I don't think the book has, like, I don't think we can conclude on it because I don't think the story has. Like you said at the beginning, we don't know if the way the Undersiders are raising Chicken Little versus the way the Undersider or the way the Breakthrough is quote unquote raising Kenzie. We don't have a clear indication on what it's saying about those, but they are different. Like, I love the detail of Aunt Rachel because I mean it just reinforces that the older members of this group are parental figures to the younger members of this group. They are figures of authority. They are the parents. Breakthrough is not that way. Would Kenzie ever call anyone on her team aunt whatever? No, she wouldn't, because they're peers. They
Right.
treat her as a peer. They suggest things for her to do. They say maybe you should do this, and they'll sometimes remind her of her own rules and obligations. But they are not parental figures for Kenzie. That's just not what they are, and that is a difference. And I know Chicken Little and Kenzie are different ages. I think he's like 9 and she's 11, right? So we can't, like, they're different ages. So it's not like they have to be treated exactly the same or anything. But we are drawing this distinction, and how that's going to play out in both these characters later is something I think we're should be thinking about.
Yeah, I'm not actually sure what their ages are. I thought they were similar, more similar than that, but I can't cite a source at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see where this goes. You know, we've threaded this Chicken Little element in the story for a while now. So
Yeah.
all right, so before everyone leaves, Swan Song extends a compliment to the lace-covered Case-53, who takes the compliment happily and says her name is Chantilly, I think, or maybe Chantilly. I'm not sure how to
Mm-hmm.
pronounce that. Before they leave, Swan Song gets Aiden's email address for Kinsey so they can keep in touch because Kinsey's not allowed to ask for that.
Yeah. So, Matt,
Uh-huh.
I get the rule. She tends to go after contact and become obsessed, so she wants to limit her ability to ask for that kind of information. But like, is the intent of the rule to avoid excessive communication, right?
Yeah, I mean that's the thing is, I, I I almost don't know if like I'm beginning to side with some of the people in the answers who were like you can't put limits on Kinsey because like you don't want her to have no friends, right? Like it's good for her to
Right.
have a
Right.
friend,
Sure.
but on the flip side, how do you keep her from making that friendship into a weird, creepy, pathological thing?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, like, yeah, I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah.
You kind of have to give her the chance to do it correctly, and maybe she'll screw it up, and maybe she won't. But it's better for her to have the chance.
Yeah. That's fair. I think I think this is we were talking about family and parents and authority figures, and I think this to me feels like a very sisterly move for Ashley, not a motherly move to like say, I know you have this rule that says you can't do this. I understand it, I respect it, but I'm gonna help you out.
Yeah,
I'm gonna do it for you. Um,
yeah, I like that. And of course, the moment where she compliments Chantilly and Sveta is like, I don't know if you want to do that, and then it works perfectly for her and probably
yeah,
endears her to Chantilly. Is as we're going to see in a moment, a huge slap in the face to Sveta, and like a demonstration of Swan Song being just like on her negotiation A game,
yeah, yeah,
which is interesting that she's putting a lot more energy into reaching out to people. I think
yeah.
Ashley is, and
Well,
it's
and
paying off.
the thing that I love about this is Sveta says, you know, we Case 53s don't like to be reminded of our disfigurements of that's a hot button issue for us. But that's speaking with a broadness that is probably not accurate. I mean, like she is very insecure in the way she looks. For a lot of reasons, but I don't think every single Case 53 is like universally like, I am a disgusting monster and I hate the way I look. So she's putting a lot of assumptiveness um, on Ashley there. Like no, you don't. And it's because she's annoyed with Ashley, and it
Uh-huh.
only escalates from there. But I just really like that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and plus Sveta's issues are like among the worst of any Case 53 that we know of, which is
Right,
something we've
right.
remarked on before. But like Sveta may not even realize what it's like to be a like a less extreme Case 53.
Yeah.
So as the team discusses whether to attack Love Lost tonight,
Just go full steam ahead.
okay, yeah, Victoria notices how distracted Sveta is and goes off with her to talk under a pretense. And Sveta goes off with her and kind of uncorks, talks very sadly about how much it hurts that she's been rejected by her Case 53 family. And then it kind of gradually turns into her being angry at how unfair it is that Ashley gets new hands that work great and that even the Case 53s accept her. And basically, her sadness has sort of been transmogrified into anger at Ashley.
Yeah, absolutely misplaced anger. Like she even goes back to how smug she was, like her how well her hands work, and but they're better. That like they look exactly like normal hands, but they're better, and she's so smug about it. And it's like your anger's totally
Yeah.
misplaced there, girl. And I mean, this we end this like this is tragic, like, and you feel so bad for her. Like, like I said at last chapter, she wants to be part of this group. This minority group of Case 53s. It's a group that she belongs to because of the monster that she was turned into, and these people are rejecting her, and so she's almost putting more value into being a member of that group than she is the group that she's a member of, like than Breakthrough. Like, she has all these people in this group that genuinely care about her, but she's getting mad at one of them instead of getting mad at the people that are rejecting her, the people that are mad at her because she didn't want to kill more people. And
Yeah.
it's just tragic, and it's so worrying. This anger could build, and like, whenever you start having a character who's displaying like misplaced anger, like, that's a recipe for badness. That's a recipe
Yeah.
for her going too far. Like, again, the first line of the chapter is, I don't know where the line is, right? Like, that's our establishing line of the arc, is Sveta talking about where the line is, and now we have her with misplaced anger, and it's just like, oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Not and it's dramatized by showing like inside her suit, she's just like raging,
Oh
like
yeah, that was
she
so good.
like
Yeah.
just like I don't remember the exact wording, like a blur of sound as like a thousand times more like activity in her suit than Victoria's ever heard.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it makes you remember like Sveta and Ashley don't get along. Like there have been a lot of interactions with them that were just rude, you know.
Right.
Um, usually actually Ashley making some statement that was kind of callous because that's how she is, and Sveta kind of saying like, "I'm offended by that,"
Mm-hmm.
and then Ashley being like, "Anyway, moving on." Like
Yeah.
that's kind of the default form of their interactions. So yeah, I don't think they like each other, and I think that maybe no one has appreciated the fact that this resentment has been building up.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely, when you look back, you at those moments, you do see that, and you see that base level of jealousy, that Ashley is this person who was this kind of disfigured person with these monstrous hands that gets to be this beautiful woman now, that like gets to have, she has everything that Sveta wants, right? Even the parts of her that aren't real are almost indistinguishable from real parts. Like, no one notices. She gets to be this person,
Yeah.
and she's getting everything that I want.
It's interesting because she highlights the smugness, and I feel a bit like if Victoria were like super smug and satisfied about the fact that she has her old body back, I don't think that would play well with Sveta. I think
Yeah, you're
it
right.
actually works out for the benefit of their friendship that Victoria still struggles so much, because then at least Sveta can be like, well, we actually have a lot in common because she's still having a hard time with things. Um,
Yeah.
she's yeah, yeah,
But I think that's a path to more conflict too, right? Because like, as Sveta spirals, if this is the direction we're going, I could see her anger and resentment turn towards Victoria, who was given the thing that Sveta wants as well.
yeah.
And that would be totally unfair, because Victoria is far from just being back to her old self, right? I mean, she's got so much stuff going on. But I could see a path where that happens. And if that starts happening, oh no.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we remarked before, like it's really impressive how Sveta is able to just be okay with the fact that her friend who shared all the same problems as her is now completely fixed and she's still in the same position.
Yep.
It's like, yep, maybe Sveta is not actually handling that quite as well as we were giving her credit for.
Nope.
All right, well, that's those two chapters. Super excited to see what's in store. Excited and what's a word that means both excited and full of dread? Um,
I don't, there's as I said before, there's probably a German one. I don't know if
yeah,
there's one in English.
yeah, you're right. Little tiny bit of name game. We can talk about whippersnap.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot here, but it's just whippersnapper is a term for a, a young dude,
Yeah,
kind of a young, kind of overconfident kid.
yeah,
And whippersnap is young, right? Like, that's
yeah,
one thing they say about him. He's a young kid, and also it's just like whip and snap are perfect. Like, adjectives to describe, what he does as
Yeah.
he's moving around. So,
Perfect. I
yeah.
got nothing to add there. All right, discussion questions. Here we go. Scott's question this week. Cluster triggers have been a pretty key part of Ward's storyline so far. What do you think the book is saying through these groups of capes? How does it tie into the themes of Ward as we understand them to be so far?
All right. That's great. I hope that's a good one. You never know.
Yeah, I am, as always, curious to see what people think of that I haven't thought of because like I don't know, I have my own thoughts, right? But people always manage to take it in like 5 different directions I never would have thought of. So
Yeah.
let's focus our brain power. And that's all we got for you this week on We've Got Ward. You guys are all part of this show, so feel free to provide us with advice, questions, or thoughts on this week's reading.
You can reach out to us via email at gotwormpod@gmail.com or on Twitter @gotwormpod. My personal Twitter is @scottdaily85, and Matt's is Mordina both. It's both.
If you're not already subscribed to We've Got Ward, we strongly recommend you do so and never miss an episode. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, Google Play, and pretty much anywhere else in the world that you can listen to podcasts.
And as always, you can find this and all the other podcasts we create over at doofmedia.com. This week, we're on the Doofcast. We're doing some animes. Someone made me watch an animes, and I'm going to talk about it.
Yeah.
It's gonna be great.
Yeah.
So
Looking
great.
forward to that conversation.
Yay! That'll be out on Friday. There's also a new Vow to View where we talk about dumb movies that we like. And I talked about Land of the Lost, which is a dumb movie that I like.
I love that movie. And if you like any of our other shows and want to support them, consider donating to our Patreon account, patreon.com/doofmedia. You can donate $1 a month or whatever else you can afford. Supporting us on Patreon gives you tons of great bonuses like being able to vote in our quarterly fan art contest and the apparently now yearly costume contest, Q&A sessions, access to live streams of our recording sessions like this very one, and of course our excellent lively Discord chat. Of course, also special thanks to new Bidoof Desmond R. Thanks, Desmond. Appreciate that, of course.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And as always, make sure you go over to Wildbow's Patreon, patreon.com/wildbow, and donate to him as well, because this is his world. We are just spying on it.
And if you can't afford to donate right now, that's absolutely okay. You can instead help us out by heading on over to Apple Podcasts and leaving us a rating and a review. There are no new reviews to read this week, so you guys know what to do. Also, hey, if you've submitted a review and for some reason we haven't read it on the show, please email me and let me know. Apple's review system, like it sucks, frankly, and sometimes it's really hard to find the new ones. Like right now ours is doing this thing where like the top review is from a year ago and then it shows a collection of like 5 from 2018 and then goes back to 2017 and it just doesn't make any sense. It's awful and sometimes we miss them. So if you've sent one and we haven't acknowledged you, let me know and we'll fix that.
Yeah. All right. That's all for this week. Next week, Polarize continues.
Sveta, no. Matt, did you watch the Detective Pikachu trailer?
Yes.
Why aren't there any Bidoofs in that? Where are the Bidoofs?
I don't know. I mean, I assume there will be at some point.
That's bullshit.
It's ridiculous.
That's way better than mine.
I'm in that, you know, that like tiredness state where your inhibitions go down, but your brain is still largely working. That's where I am right now.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's called tired drunk.
Yeah.
My camera stopped working at the very beginning of the show.
Yeah.
And it won't turn back. It's ironic that your camera was broken and now it's mine.
Yeah. Well.
Deactivate camera. Activate camera. Nope. Not doing anything.
Nope. Have you tried restarting your computer during the podcast?
I have not tried that yet. Where's my camera program? Logitech. Where are you, camera? That's not right. What was the disappointed no I gave, Wildbow? I saw that message, but I didn't know what you were talking about.
Yeah.
Do you remember, Matt?
No, the 10-second delay weirdly injects a huge amount of uncertainty into what people are referring to.
Right.
uh, which you wouldn't think it would, but Polarize Part 3. All right, there's the audio.
Gracias.
Well, I was wrong about the odds of the baby needing to be comforted.
Yeah, that's great. Hopefully she's feeling better.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's this. The pediatrician was basically like, this virus will last 5 days, and it started on Monday. So just accept it. Just accept it.
Oh, oh, when the no was when I was talking about how it would be a machine that would change the power, but it's got to be the cruelest, most bloody, terrible thing ever.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like I'm disappointed in how it's going. It's just it highlights the difference between your writing and a lot of the other stuff I've read. I like it better. Like, it's not like the end of that anime we had to watch where it was just like, fucking doesn't make any sense anymore. Just random bullshit.
It's going to be a fun conversation.
It's going to be so great. Hey, camera, where you at? What? Like, it's funny that like on OBS, it's just my frozen face still.
Why is this not working?
Camera. Something went wrong. Media capture failed event.
I love something went
Cool.
wrong as an error message.
You played
Thanks.
PlanetSide? Since when
I,
did you start playing PlanetSide?
like this week, since I was sick, I was like, you know what? Fuck everything and all of my ambitions. I'm gonna get another game.
Is this the original?
No, this is PlanetSide 2, which is only marginally better than the original one. In fact, I'm entirely sure that it's not just like a reskinned version of the original.
It's definitely not. I played PlanetSide 2 for a while.
Did you? I remember we all played PlanetSide together.
Yes, we did.
College.
That was when MMO first-person shooter was like, "What? You can't do that. What? It's too much."
What a foolish idea.
It was fun.
Yeah, it always seemed like it had way more potential than was actually realized. Like I always loved the idea of it.
I would agree with that. How many people still play that game? Like, a lot of people you kill?
I mean, I suck at it for one thing, so I don't kill them. But I mean, the way they structure it, is like it's all based around like what bases are being contested. So even if not very many people are playing, there will always be enough people for a good firefight. That's kind of how I
see.
Am yeah.
Well, I think the only way to get my camera back is gonna be to restart. So I'm just not gonna have it. So don't get to look at me today. I'm sorry, everyone.
Who is shooting at me?
Which faction are you?
I'm Vanu.
Ugh, gross.
Of course I'm Vanu. They're the transhumanist sect.
Of course you are. It's really on brand.
Yes, it is. Thanks for noticing. Uh-oh, that's not good.
You're gonna lose. He's a sniper. You're trying.
See, when the reticle doesn't change colors. Oh wait, that's not even anything. Shooting at nothing. That's embarrassing.
Man, it's lucky you're not like streaming on the internet right now.
Yeah. Well, that could be. Oh no, it was a ship. It was just holding really still.
You can't take out a ship with a machine gun.
No, I'm not even convinced that I'm damaging it. Actually.
I don't think you are.
This game is so poorly thought out. I'm basically playing this for nostalgia based around the previous version of the game.
It's fair. And that's basically why I've been playing Final Fantasy XIV, to remember the time when I played Final Fantasy games. My Drive, Polarize, Part 3, download. Download anyway. I trust that Matt will not send me a virus.
Well,
Yeah, Prof says Chicken Little should be 9. Yeah, and Kenzie is 11. So yeah, I mean she is older than him, but I still think the text is drawing comparisons between the different ways that they manage these kids, and it's gonna be interesting to see how that pays off.
Absolutely.
It's happened both times, so like it's not. I don't think that's us like reading into something that's not there.
No, it's being conveyed that we're supposed to notice that.
Poor Sveta. I'm so scared.
I know.
I'm so scared.
Everything always turns out fine.
No, it doesn't.
Oh, wait. I'm thinking of Roald Dahl.
What book are you reading?
Why was I teleported here? The hell?
Because you gotta
Wait,
go where
stop.
the action is.
Stop, let me get in your vehicle.
Did you know that episode was 2 hours long?
Yeah, I noticed
How
as
did
we
that
were going
happen?
that it seemed kind of... No, wait.
The script
of
was
bitch.
short,
Well,
or shorter.
we spent a lot of time on the part at the beginning,
We did a lot of announcements. That's true.
and
Damn
then
announcements.
we just kind of didn't. We just kind of free balled it. Free balled.
Freeballed.
It's a little Achewood reference for you there.
I don't get it. Seargrass says Ward ends soon when Sveta accidentally kills the whole team.
Yeah.
Yes, accidentally. Sveta is final boss.
Wait, let me ride on you. Damn.
I think it's like I like incorrectly was like, oh, something's gonna happen to Weld, and that's what's gonna push Sveta over the edge, forgetting that her like start of book instigating Glowworm chapter was about the other Case 53s rejecting her, and now it's like duh, it's gonna be that. Like it seems so obvious now in retrospect.
Yeah. Hey. There we go.
Is that your tank? I hope that's
No,
your
it's
tank.
somebody. Oh, nope. Somebody else is driving.
Can't believe you're on the purple team.
Go back. Damn it.
Wow, there are a lot of people. I mean,
Probably like the whole team right here.
like the whole server.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, there can be pretty good fights. It's just pretty few and far between.
Were we still playing PlanetSide? How are you going up the wall like that?
Well, this game is definitely more forgiving about driving over terrain, I'll put it that way. Oh, good choice. Yeah, this is good.
I could give all kinds of.
Why are you doing this? Okay, now you just ran over an ally. See, this is entertaining, right?
Yeah, just seeing you kind of rock back and forth.
Yeah. All right, I'm getting out. Whoa! Watch out.
Is that a bad guy right there?
Nope.
I haven't seen any bad guys.
I saw one, and I did shoot him, but not kill.
Good job. played a song from Anna and the Apocalypse before the episode started. So our stream is probably going to get flagged for copyright.
Cool.
The whole album comes out on the 20th. And then the
Sweet.
movie comes out soon after that, and I can't wait. Zombie musical.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Okay. This game isn't worth it.
It's free to play, right?
Yeah.
So you didn't like pay money for it.
No.
Okay, good. That's good. Ugh. Hey, American friends, you doing anything fun for Thanksgiving? Are you staying in town, Matt?
Yeah, I'm staying here.
Are your parents coming or anything?
No, I'll just go see some I don't know what the word is.
Friends?
Sure. Sure. People who I know.
Jesus Christ. Now I'm going to do that thing where I check my work email, even though it's midnight, because maybe someone sent me a message. I don't know why I do that.
Yeah,
Nobody did. I had the worst thing happen in the world today.
Wait, did
I
we
gave
kill
her-
each other? Sorry, go
gave her-
ahead.
Presentation,
Uh-huh.
and it was so good that my boss is making me give the presentation again to different people.
That's I can't help but see that as a good thing, Scott. Sorry.
Well, here's the problem.
Uh-huh.
I'm kind of ruining Vow to View because I whined about this on Vow to View, but there's only a few people here, so that's fine. It's next Tuesday, and next week's Thanksgiving.
Huh.
So I was like totally gonna work from home Monday through Wednesday,
Right.
and then have Thursday, Friday off, and just have a nice, relaxing week. And now I have to present before like a lot of people that are very high up in the company, and like the presentation I give was really informal because it was just to my boss and a couple other people. So like I didn't make like a PowerPoint. I just had like a Word document where I went through some stuff. So now I have to like put together a PowerPoint and like make it pretty and like make it to a point where people that don't know this stuff can understand. It's just like it's more work, and it's like I don't know. I want to do that.
Yeah.
Don't make me do that. Just you give the presentation. I gave it to you. You gave it to them. That's
Yeah.
what bosses do.
It's always annoying when bosses are like trying to look out for your professional development, and you're like,
Yeah.
no, I don't really want
You
any
jerk.
of that.
If you want to look out for my professional development, donate to my podcast.
Yes, exactly.
4,
Really
3,
cared about me.
2, 1.
One.
I think we won.
Later, Prof. What's a silent voice? Is that an anime? Yes. No, Wildbow, I don't think there's a way. It wasn't even like a, would you please give this presentation? It was like, we have a meeting on Tuesday. I'd like them to see this. You're
Yeah.
coming.
Yeah. My favorite kind of order.
I can't believe this episode is this long.
It's
Very
interesting.
surprising.
It's interesting how much gets done in professional contexts when no one ever gives anyone like a command. It's always just like, yeah, I'd like to see that. And then
Yeah.
it's like, okay, I get it.
I also did this thing where, like, I think corporate America is the most ridiculous thing in the world. Because, like, I gave this presentation today, and basically what I was doing was just mapping audit issues together. So, like, we have all these different audits that go on, and they all find these issues, and we need to map them together so we know, like, if I fix one thing, is it going to fix just one issue, or is it going to fix, like, 20 issues?
Uh-huh.
So I did it. Yeah, I just saw you fall and die. That was great.
Yeah.
So I did it this morning. I got into work and I mapped the issues together and I did it all. And like I'm in this meeting and this one guy in the meeting is like, "Man, this is such great work. This must have taken you so much time." And I'm just like, "Yeah, yeah, it's a lot of data. It took so much time."
Oh,
But
yeah.
it didn't. It didn't though. But I mean, that's like I think that's what corporate America does. I think it's just like whenever someone asks you how much time is it going to take to do this, you have the amount of time in your head, and then you have the amount of time you tell the person,
Right.
and they are never the same time.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it's probably
Right.
going to take me like a day to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, you better give me like 2 weeks.
You're right. Right. There's no. Yeah, I agree. Because the thing is, it could take that long. Could.
Yeah, it could.
You,
You don't know.
yeah. I mean, like I actually learned a long time ago. Like there's nothing I hate more than giving people my actual estimate of how long the thing will take, and having it take, and then having that be like obviously shown to be impossible quickly, and then I have to be like, look, I was wrong. So instead, I just do the George thing.
You're kind of like cutting out or getting quiet.
It
I don't know
usually
what's going on.
that I don't feel bad about it. It's the thing.
I can't hear you anymore. You both got quieter and started cutting out at the same time, and I don't really understand how that happens.
A tattletale, and I think there's a
Yeah.
good case to.
That's not our Matt. That's recorded Matt. 5,
The hell?
4, 3, 2, 1.
One. Hey, everybody. Welcome to We've Got Ward, a Doof Media podcast series where we expertly dissect and discuss Ward, Wildbow's return to the world of parahumans. My name is Matt Freeman, and sometimes I just like to get eaten by a ribbon lady so I don't have to exist anymore.
And my name is Scott Daly, and I like bird-shaped things. Out after being disrespected by some fellow Case 53s. Matt, Raptors.
These are great. There's.
Yeah, I completely agree. One thing that I've really enjoyed in this arc so
I
far
keep
is
trying
this
to turn the volume
definitely
down.
is.
Music. 'Cause it's
Hey, you're
definitely-
back. You're back.
I'm back.
Yeah, you stopped. Like I stopped being able to hear you for a long time.
Oh.
I wasn't just ignoring you.
Oh, I think I was just being quiet.
Well, no, you were talking, and then like you like your talking went quiet, and then
Huh. Well, sure, whatever I was saying wasn't important.
no, it was extremely important.
Basically, her
Let's make
sadness
sure
has sort of been trans.
to talk about
shit.
it. It's gonna be.
Yep.
It's gonna be great. It's
Yeah.
gonna be so
Look-
great.
Looking forward to that conversation.
Yay! That'll be out
Well, I
on
did.
Friday.
I did miss work today, so should probably get some sleep.
Isn't that all the more reason to not get sleep because you like are fully rested? Stuff.
Yeah, I mean that makes perfect sense. So you're right. Whoa, shit. Oh
3,
God.
2,
God
1.
damn it.
You okay there, man?
There's a cloaked guy. There's a cloaked guy. I lost him. Oh shit. Yeah, we're not doing too well in this battle. My team.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to We've Got
We're
Ward.
getting spawn killed. Let's say.
bummer. It's
As the kid
absolutely
said
okay.
in
You can't acknowledge
1999.
No, and we'll fix that.
Yeah.
Still say I assume.
All right, that's all for this week. Next week, Polarize continues.
Sveta, no. Matt, did you watch the Detective Pikachu? Oh, you turned off your recording before your response to the Detective Pikachu thing.
Did I?
Yeah.
Didn't know that was important. Sorry.
Did you watch the
Betrayed us.
Detective Pikachu trailer?
Uh-oh.
It's okay, I'm putting my part in anyway. Matt, did you watch the Detective Pikachu trailer? Why aren't there any Bidoofs in that? Where are the Bidoofs? That's bullshit. That's way better than mine. You just missed your great Bidoof pun. It's just not in it. It's a shame.
Next week, Polarize continues.
Sveta, no.
I don't remember anything that happened today, so.
That's not good.
Uh-oh.
Matt, did you watch the Detective Pikachu trailer? Why aren't there any Bidoofs in that? Where are the Bidoofs?
Sorry.
2 hours and 4 minutes. Jesus, Scott. What the heck? There's 2 chapters.
Well, sometimes you just got to talk about 2 chapters for. I don't know where I'm going with that.
I was really waiting to see where that was going. There is a Psyduck and a Bulbasaur. There's no Bidoofs. But is the plural of Bidoof Bidoofs? Or is it like
I think it's Bidoof with an umlaut. Oh shit! What the hell? God damn it!
And Sirgo asks or says, "I wonder if you guys will have difficulties covering full arcs of Pack and Twig now when you get to them." I think the miraculous thing about us is we expand and contract to the time limit. So
Exactly.
I think we'll be fine. But the Charizard does look pretty awesome looking. I mean, the whole movie looks good. That's the thing about it. Like, yes, it's silly. It's a ridiculous concept, and Ryan Reynolds is a Pikachu, but like, it looks big. Like, it looks like they spent time on the world, and it's just I don't know. I'm shocked at how good this thing looks.
Yeah. I mean, as I was saying in the Discord today, like Ryan Reynolds has political capital with. He can actually do a couple of stupid things, and I'll still think he's.
Yeah, I mean, and surely something attracted him to this thing, right? 'Cause,
Right.
like, it's not like he needs the money.
Yeah.
I mean, he'll take the money, but
Right.
I'm all about a noir detective story starring Ryan Reynolds as Pikachu.
Exactly. That is also what I'm about. You know what? I'm gonna fucking. That's it. We're done. Done.
You okay there, man?
Fine.
For me and stop eating that fucking cookie dough.
Can you hear that?
Yeah, I can hear it. I can hear your obnoxious chewing.
My obnoxious chewing?
I'm sorry, what? Your students?
So what's your thoughts on when you meet someone for the first time and you call them by the last name instead of by like Mrs. So-and-so?
What do you
or
mean?
If you're like, let's just say you work with someone
Okay.
and instead of saying Scott or Mr. Daly, they just start like day one calling you, hey Daly.
Yeah, if you're not in high school sports, that's weird.
That's what I thought too.
Or the military. Those are the acceptable places for that. Anywhere else, it's weird.
That's what I thought too.
Okay, good.
Okay.
We do the intro for me real quick?
Hey everyone, welcome to Vowdy View, your Doof Media podcast, all about marriage and the things we make each other watch. My name is Elise
Okay.
Daly,
Now I'm actually gonna
Daly.
Okay. Goodbye.
Goodbye, everyone. Good night.
No more face cam for you at all, because I'm not here.
Very well.
All right, man.
Bye.
I'll talk to you tomorrow. I've got 2 episodes to edit tonight.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you're good. Ready?
Yep.
All right, let's go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey there, everyone. My name is Elise Daly, and welcome to Vow to View.
Don't always like them, but
Editing is so fun. Mute.
because we love
Elise! That is very loud. No, no, no. Check for me and stop eating that
movies
fucking
too.
cookie dough. Elise, why don't you do a sound check for me and stop eating that fucking cookie dough?
Can you hear that?
Yeah, I can hear it. I can hear your obnoxious chewing.
My obnoxious chewing?
I'm sorry, what?
My obnoxious chewing?
Are you implying something?
Mm-hmm.
What are you implying?
You have a particular way sometimes you eat certain foods.
You just don't like how I eat chips, and you're just a jerk about it.
It's not just chips.
It's just chips.
No, it's not.
What else is it?
French fries.
What's wrong with French fries?
It's the same sort of thing. Anytime you eat snacky food, you smacky food.
You're just overly
Snacky
sensitive.
smackies.
You're just overly sensitive.
Mm-mm.
Elise, why don't you do a sound check for me and stop eating that fucking cookie dough?
Can you hear that?
Yeah, I can hear it. I can hear your obnoxious chewing.
My obnoxious chewing?
I'm sorry. Not too much harder. I do a little more than I do on or on the Worm Ward, whatever, but not too much. There's a dog. There's so many dog noises in this one. It's obnoxious.
No, it's not.
What else is it? See if I can what are get you rid of implying? The dog
You
shaking
have a
its
particular
collar.
way sometimes you eat certain obnoxious chewing.
I'm sorry, what?
Can you hear that?
Yeah, I can hear it. I can hear your obnoxious chewing. No, it's right there. It's right when I'm speaking. Chewing. Oh, it's annoying. Chewing. See, the dogs cannot stand to not be in the same room as us, so I cannot record with Elise without the dogs being there, and they always make noise.
My obnoxious chewing?
Your obnoxious chewing. I wonder if I can get this part out of it, though. Obnoxious chewing. No, that was too much. Just chewing.
My obnoxious chewing?
I'm sorry, what?
My?
Something?
Mm-hmm.
Chewing.
My obnoxious chewing?
I'm sorry, what?
My obnoxious chewing?
Are you implying something? Chewing.
My obnoxious chewing?
I'm sorry, what?
Eat snacky food, you smacky food. Food.
Thou, view, thou, view, thou, view, thou, view,
Vow
thou,
to
view.
View.
Hey there, everyone. My name is Elise Daly, and welcome to Vow to View, your Doof Media podcast all about marriage and the things we make each other watch. My name is Elise Daly,
And I'm Scott Daly.
and together we're
The Dailies. And I am going to turn you down because, wow, you're loud.
You turn me down every week.
Yeah, and then your voice fluctuates like crazy.
It's called normal person and making yourself sound interesting.
You can make your voice dynamic without going really high to really low.
I mean, but it's kind of shocking. It's like, what are we going to do? You know? And then
I
you just equalize me.
I guess.
And then it doesn't even matter anymore.
This is the weekly podcast where my wife, Elise, and I each pick a movie and make each other watch it this week. And then
You did say each pick a movie. Good job.
did. Then
I listened.
we sit in front of some microphones and we talk about those movies and we talk about ourselves and we talk about love, all that good stuff. And Elise bumps the microphone while shoving cookie dough into her mouth.
I did no such thing.
Elise,
One of the two I
what
did.
is our theme for this week's show?
Scott wanting to make Elise watch Land of the Lost. Scott wanting to make Elise watch Land of the Lost. So, what other
guess.
movies can we make them watch?
The theme is a dog in the middle of recording is coming to us to throw a toy.
Fetch, no, drop,
No.
drop it.
The theme is don't play fetch with her while we're recording a podcast.
But she's so cute and she just wants to play.
She's gonna squeak it.
No, she doesn't squeak. She's the perfect dog. She's not the perfect dog. She does squeak the toy.
Oh my god, this is a disaster.
No, it's not. It's just perfect. It's called reality.
This
This
week,
is reality podcasting, guys.
this week on the show, we are talking about
We could talk about dumb decisions that you made.
yeah.
Now, I don't have to answer this question because I asked it to you.
That's
You have to
not
come
how
with a
it
different
works.
question. I love seeing how things play out. Celebration.
It is a celebration.
Yes.
And that's a great transition
Yes,
because
I
it's
know.
time to move into Roses and Thorns.
Rosies and Thornies.
Every rose has its thorn. Yeah. Jesus. Elise.
Yes,
What
Scotty.
is your rose of the week?
So I'm really excited. I think it was 3 years ago. Patreon.com/doofmedia. www.patreon, patreon.com//doof, DOOF media.
Is it backslash, like a slash and a backslash, like both of them?
No,
You
just
said
one slash.
You said slash backslash. I'm just confused.
Let's just do both.
Well, then it won't
Well,
work.
I was doing a slash parentheses backslash.
Oh, it was in parentheses.
Yeah, it was not a forward
I
slash.
gotcha.
It was a backslash.
gotcha.
But don't do the parentheses in the web address because if you do backslash open parentheses doof media close parentheses, then you won't get it.
You definitely won't. Or you can just click the link in our show notes. You can do
That's
that.
probably a lot
Yeah.
easier.
All right, guys. Americans have a great Thanksgiving next week, and everyone else, I hope your Thursday is cool. And
Sorry you won't get to hear us.
yeah, sorry about that. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
That's a chicken, not a turkey. Gobble gobble.
The fuck. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
That's a chicken, not a turkey. Gobble gobble.
The fuck. Elise. Oh god, I said I would make the crap. It's gonna be a late night. Gotta make the 2 pages as well. I'm probably gonna go ahead and shut this bad boy down because I have to compile all the contest entries and the new contest, and I had to do all that stuff. So that's gonna be really boring. Yeah, you too. I'll talk to you all tomorrow. Have a good one. Thanks for hanging out. It was fun. Sorry my camera's broken. I don't understand why. What's going on with that? I'll get that fixed.